Chapter 117. These rumors were just short of pointing at Shang Junlin's nose and saying, "If it weren't for you, there wouldn't be a drought in Subei, and it's all your fault." The rumors were discovered very early, but they didn't reach the climax. It was funny that they were discovered so quickly, but it was all thanks to the people of various places. Didn't you mention before that we can set up a suggestion box in each government office? If the people have any opinions, they can write in anonymously. In the past 2 days, many government offices have seen letters mentioning this matter in the suggestion box. They didn't dare delay and immediately sorted out the letters and handed them in. Not only are there letters from the capital, but there are also letters from other places. Shang Junlin didn't look angry when he spoke of this matter. This kind of thing was normal for the emperor. No matter what kind of natural disaster or man-made disaster, there would always be some people who liked to put the blame on the person in power. Not to mention other things, the previous emperor of Dahuan had encountered this kind of thing. These people think that by putting the blame on His Majesty, they can achieve their goal. Xin Yu smoothly poured tea for the two of them, and pushed one of the cups in front of Shang Junlin. No matter what their goal is, it's destined to be in vain. Although Xin Yu had expected such a thing to happen, he still felt angry that it had really happened. Shang Junlin had done his best to work for Dahuan, and after finding out about the situation in Subei, he had also done his best to resolve this matter. In the end, all of this had become evidence to destroy him. Don't frown because of this. Shang Junlin reached out and touched Xin Yu's cheek. It's not a big deal. With a use precautions in advance, they can't make any waves. Didn't the people tell us when there were just rumors? Even so, I still don't want to hear them speak ill of His Majesty. Since he had guessed what those people would do, Xin Yu certainly wouldn't sit still and wait for death. Whether it was the suggestion box, the newspapers that were targeted at all the people, or the special channels that passed information to the capital, they were all in order to deal with this matter. The commoners were the easiest to incite. If those people wanted to incite the commoners to be dissatisfied with Shang Junlin, they would definitely find people to spread rumors among the commoners. They would deliberately distort the facts and exaggerate a certain part of the matter to incite the anger of the commoners. Then they would further discredit the commoners. This kind of thing had happened more than once or twice. Xin Yu had listed a few cases, summarized the routine, and then resolved them one by one. In fact, it was very easy. The other party was able to succeed one after another because of the lack of information. The commoners did not know much about the imperial court, and even less about Shang Junlin. All their impressions were obtained from the mouths of others. Whether it was good or bad depended on the speaker. Xin Yu directly told them what the imperial court had done, what the emperor had done, and why he had done these things. Compared to hearing it from unknown people, the commoners clearly believed the information given by the imperial court more. After all, the president of Subei was here. The daily situation in Subei was known to them from the imperial court. This eliminated the possibility of a middleman relaying information that might cause a difference in information. The imperial court directly passed down the information, which was more objective and direct. In addition, Xin Yu had written some conspiracies about the protagonist in Return to Spring. After the people finished reading it, they would unconsciously remember these. When they encountered similar things, they could not help but think, is this a conspiracy like in the drama? In short, with the support of various reasons, the situation not only did not develop as the people behind the scenes wanted, but it was also reported to the imperial court by the commoners who heard it. In the tea house. It rained in the capital last night. I don't know how the situation in Subei is like. The news that came back 2 days ago was that it hasn't rained there yet. However, the supplies we collected are almost here. I hope they can be put to use soon. Don't you think it's strange? It's raining everywhere, so why isn't it raining in Subei? An unfamiliar man in gray suddenly spoke up. The people who were talking suddenly fell silent. After a while, someone smiled and poured a cup of tea for himself. What's so strange about it? It rained in the capital last night, but that doesn't mean it rained everywhere in the Great Huan. That's right. It's normal for the weather to be different from place to place. Sometimes half of the capital is raining and the other half is sunny. Let's not talk too far. Just last night, it didn't rain everywhere. That's right. It didn't rain in my house. Today, I heard from you that it rained in many places. The gray-clothed man was deflated. He wanted to say something else, but the people around him had already started talking about other topics. They looked at him as if he was an uncultured man. He almost fainted in anger. That's right. Have you heard? The imperial court is preparing to open a new school in the capital. At that time, not only will they accept male students, but they will also accept female students. It's said that there will be a lot of things to teach. It won't be restricted to the imperial examinations. You can also pass the examination and directly enter the Ministry of Works and other departments. My son won't study no matter what. I originally didn't have much hope. If he can learn something else and enter the imperial court, it'll be better than working in the fields like me for the rest of his life. Where did you hear this from? Is it reliable? The People's Report, but it only mentioned a little. The imperial court is probably busy with the matters in Subei, so they won't have the energy to do this for the time being. If they can accept women, then can I also send my daughter there? No, don't you think it's against common sense for women to be officials? The gray-clothed man listened to them talk for a long time, and even began to excitedly imagine sending his daughter into the school. He couldn't help but speak up. I say, why are you so strange? Why do you think that women can't be officials? Didn't Zhao Nyang in the play become an official in the end? It's much better than that man who is a corrupt official. You said it yourself, that's in the play. So what? I'm just fantasizing about my daughter becoming an official. If you don't like it, then don't listen. I've seen his daughter before. She's smart and quick-witted, just like Zhao Nyang. She'll definitely be a good official in the future. Everyone chatted together for fun. The middle-aged man was an honest man, and he only had one daughter in his family. She was smart and likable, so everyone was happy to support him. In fact, they were just joking. No one would take their half-joking words to heart. Unfortunately, the gray-clothed man didn't know that. He thought that they were sincerely accepting women as officials, so he swallowed his unfinished words. He originally wanted to say that it was against the heavens for women to be officials, and that this might be the reason for the drought in Subei. But now he didn't dare to say it. Right, the donation you mentioned. Shouldn't the disaster relief be the imperial court's matter? Why do you have to do it? As a citizen of Dahuan, we'll do what we can. We can't always rely on the imperial court for everything. It's not like the imperial court didn't do anything. The gray-clothed man swallowed his words again. He really didn't understand. Why did these people always side with the imperial court? It was as if they had suddenly become smart. They weren't so hard to fool before. The atmosphere in the tea house was still lively. The storyteller was telling a story based on the news from Subei. Everyone was paying attention to Subei's situation, so they loved to hear stories like this. The gray-clothed man observed for a while longer. After confirming that there was no chance to make a move, he left the tea house with his tail between his legs. After he left, the two men sitting not far away looked at each other and followed him. In the small alley, the gray-clothed man walked quickly with his head down. He had to report the news quickly. They seemed to have been deceived. Their original plan didn't work at all. Suddenly, the gray-clothed man stopped. Two men wearing similar clothes blocked his path. Sir, may I know your name? Can you come with us? Who are you? The gray-clothed man stared at them warily. You'll know our identities when you come with us. The gray-clothed man realized that something was wrong and turned to flee. The two men had been guarding him for several days. How could they let him leave just like that? They raised their feet and chased after him. The gray-clothed man only knew a few simple moves. How could he compare to the two well-trained men? Not long after, his path was blocked again. This time, the two men didn't say much and tied him up. We've caught another little mouse. The gray-clothed man was shocked. Judging from the familiarity of the two men's movements, it was clearly not their first time doing this. No wonder they had sent so many people, but had no effect at all. The imperial court had been prepared for this. Unfortunately, he found out too late and didn't have the chance to report to his master. Even now, he still held on to a glimmer of hope. Have you found the wrong person? I don't know you. I really don't know you. Why have you caught me? We don't need to know you. We only need to know what you've done. The gray-clothed man's heart sank. He wanted to say something, but his mouth was blocked by the impatient man beside him. He clapped his hands and said, "Why waste words with this person? Someone will interrogate him when we get there. Now we have peace." The two men brought the tied-up gray-clothed man back to the Supreme Court. "You've caught another one?" "Yes, we've caught quite a few recently. I don't know if you've found out anything." Along the way, the gray-clothed man listened to the conversation between the two men and his colleagues. His face was ashen. Their plan this time might become a complete joke. But he didn't know that things were far from over. Yuzhong Palace. Xinyu sat by the window and slowly poured a cup of tea for himself. "Mushi, what's the situation outside the palace?" "Young master's guess is right. Those people are hiding in restaurants, tea houses, and other places with a lot of people. They want to take the opportunity to incite the people. After our men saw through them a few times, the others also realized that they weren't fooled. Instead, they blocked those people and made them speechless. The Supreme Court has already arrested many people. I was wondering why the people suddenly spoke in unison. It turns out that a youth sent people to guide them." Shang Junlin walked in from outside. Eunuch Meng followed behind him with a memorial. "It can be so effective because Your Majesty is wholeheartedly serving the people. After Your Majesty ascended the throne, the lives of the people have been getting better and better. They know this in their hearts. If it weren't for the fact that he had made great achievements, how could he convince the people with just a few words? In a youth's heart, am I so good?" Shang Junlin walked over. Xinyu wore a light blue wide-sleeved robe today. His snow-white wrists stretched out from the wide sleeves. He was fiddling with the tea set in a relaxed and elegant manner. Shang Junlin held Xinyu's wrist and gently rubbed it. The young man's skin was white and tender, like the best white jade. It was very admirable. "Your Majesty is naturally the best in my heart." Xinyu picked up the brewed tea with his other hand and fed it to Shang Junlin. "This cup is to reward Your Majesty." Chapter 118. Shang Junlin lowered his head and took a sip from Xinyu's hand. He slowly savored the taste and said, "The tea this time seems to be different from the last time. You learned a new technique from the book. How is it compared to the last time?" The palace had a rich collection of books, and Shang Junlin did not guard against him. At first, Xinyu was reserved and did not pay attention to the books that were not sensitive to him. Later on, he became closer to Shang Junlin and no longer restrained himself. He would read the books that he was interested in. "No matter what technique AU uses, the tea is still delicious to me." Before Xinyu entered the palace, Shang Junlin only knew a little about tea. He was not passionate about it. Later on, Xinyu would occasionally brew tea for him and tell him about the tea ceremony. This made him more fond of tea. Rather than saying that he liked tea, it was more like he liked the feeling of drinking tea with Xinyu. Shang Junlin drank the entire cup of tea with Xinyu's hand. Then he took the empty cup from Xinyu's hand and put it on the small table at the side. "How many people have they arrested now? Did they find out anything?" One of Xinyu's hands was still held by Shang Junlin. The two of them sat on the soft couch. "According to Ayu's method, I asked them to pay more attention to the places where people gather. If they find something wrong, they will check and confirm that there is no mistake before arresting them. Not only in the capital, but also in other places." The order was sent to the place along with the news. It was sent through another special channel. The arrests were also carried out secretly. The people behind the scenes did not know that the people they sent out to spread the rumors were all in jail. "We have also received news of the interrogation. Most of the people we captured were just following orders from the higher-ups. We were unable to get much useful information out of them. However, according to the clues we obtained from them, we found out a few of their hiding spots. I have asked the Hidden Dragon Guards to investigate their backgrounds. They didn't take action as soon as they found out, because they didn't want to alert the enemy. These people had been hiding in the Great Huan Land for many years. Now that they were finally discovered, of course they had to follow the clues and get rid of them all in one go. Regarding these matters, Xinyu had always only given suggestions and never really intervened. It was not because he was afraid of Shang Junlin, but because he simply didn't want to. Your Majesty, do you still remember the flower that Prince An sent over? I always felt that there was something wrong with that flower, but I couldn't find anything wrong with it. The vassal kings sent a lot of things. Most of them were gold, silver and jewels. Only the Anwang sent a strange flower for no apparent reason. Shang Junlin also knew about the existence of this flower. Xinyu had told him about it before. Did the people from the Imperial Institute of Medicine come to take a look? He was worried that this flower would affect Xinyu, so he put the flower alone in a corner and didn't ask anyone to take care of it. As a result, after a period of time, the flower didn't wither because of lack of care. Instead, it bloomed more beautifully. Yes, Imperial Physician Gu said that this flower was similar to the ones that appeared in the ancient books. However, there were some differences when you looked at it carefully. The other Imperial physicians also came to take a look. The attendants in charge of taking care of the flowers in the palace also took a look. Other than being sure that it wasn't poisonous, they couldn't tell what kind of flower it was. Xinyu felt that it was very strange. Your Majesty, why do you think Prince An sent this flower over for no reason? If you doesn't like it, just ask someone to throw it away. Shang Junlin stroked his hair that was hanging down behind his back. What kind of flower does you want? I'll find it and send it over. Just leave it there for now. This flower always gives me a very strange feeling. Prince An shouldn't be so stupid as to give the Imperial Palace something that can be used against him. I'll listen to you. However, you shouldn't get close to the flower. Just ask someone to take care of it. I'll find someone who knows about flowers and plants to take a look. After confirming that there's no problem with the flower, you can go take a look if she wants to. Xinyu also had the same plan. She nodded in the man's arms. Shang Junlin brought up another matter. The first batch of goods from the capital to Subei will probably arrive today. It's finally here. Looking at Feng Daren's memorial, the officials he brought over are almost at their limits. Xinyu had personally witnessed the aftermath of a natural disaster in her previous life. She knew what kind of hell it was. No matter how good one's endurance was, they wouldn't be able to endure it for a few more days. Feng Jun wants to bring those people back. Shang Junlin stroked the strand of hair in his hand. Especially two of the younger ones. Their condition isn't very good. When I mentioned it to them, they weren't willing to come back. Among those two, one of them had once wanted to give the youth food. In just a few days, his understanding of the past few years had almost changed. After knowing that the imperial court had sent many people in addition to the goods, Feng Jun called the officials who had followed him for a period of time together and asked, "Do any of you want to go back?" "Darren, why are you suddenly asking this? There are still so many places in Subei that we haven't visited yet. How can we go back?" One of them answered without hesitation. "Yes, we have to finish what we started. Since we're here, we naturally have to finish what we started before we leave." In fact, at the beginning, a few of the officials were very uncomfortable. They were the children of aristocratic families, and had never experienced such hardships since they were young. They had grown up in luxury and didn't know that the lives of the common people would be so difficult. They didn't deny that they had thoughts of retreating, but these thoughts were obliterated by one incident after another. On the contrary, an indescribable ambition grew in their hearts. The confusion of their previous life as officials was swept away, and the conviction in their hearts was strengthened. Hadn't they originally wanted to be good officials to benefit the common people? If they hadn't come out on this trip, if they hadn't seen these hellish scenes and shocking scenes, perhaps they would have spent the rest of their lives in confusion. But now they wouldn't. After experiencing this incident, they knew what kind of burden they were shouldering. As officials, they shouldn't look at power, but the responsibility behind the scenes. The imperial court's reinforcements will arrive soon. If any of you want to rest, you can return to the capital with them first, Lord Feng said as he looked at the officials whose spirits had greatly changed. The crowd fell silent. Did they want to go back? Of course they did. Compared to the capital, the environment here was truly too harsh and vile. If Lord Feng had asked this question a few days ago, perhaps some of them would have wavered. But now, after experiencing so much, They asked themselves, were they willing to go back like this? They still hadn't seen the leg of the old man next door get better. They still hadn't seen the birth of their wife's child. They still hadn't seen. There were still too many things that they had yet to see. If they went back like this, how could they be at ease? I won't go. I won't leave until I'm certain that the disaster in Subei is alleviated. After the first person spoke, a second, a third. All of them spoke. Without exception, the answer they gave was that they weren't willing to leave. Lord Fong had expected this. He had seen the changes in these people with his own eyes. It could be said that he had personally witnessed the changes in these people. Several of the muddle-headed scions of aristocratic families in the capital had undergone massive changes at a speed visible to the naked eye. Lord Fong was happy for them, but at the same time, his heart ached for them. This was because these changes meant that they had experienced immense pain in their hearts. The scions of aristocratic families who had grumbled when they first arrived would no longer complain no matter how hard or tiring the work was. There were also faint calluses on their hands. Lord Fong scanned these people's faces one by one. Their expressions were resolute, and their eyes showed that they weren't willing to back down. He slowly retracted his gaze and unconsciously said in a gentle voice, "Don't be in a hurry to answer. You have one night to consider. I have already told His Majesty about your achievements. When you return to the capital, these will not be affected because of your early departure." The next day, everyone's answer remained the same. They were all willing to stay here, until the day they saw Subei get better with their own eyes. Lord Fong didn't say anything else. He just objectively wrote down this matter on a memorial, and had the hidden dragon guards send it back to the capital. Xingyu found the memorials that were sent from the northern Su province. Just like before, Master Fong wrote 2 memorials. One was sent back to the capital through the hidden dragon guards while the other was sent back through official channels. The latter was usually a few days slower than the former. Xingyu opened the memorial and read through it. It seems that Lord Fong has a good opinion of these officials who followed him. Half of the officials who went to the disaster relief were from the lesser aristocratic families. Lord Fong was the leader. At the beginning, there was some friction between the two parties. Now, both parties were able to put aside their differences and work together harmoniously. Compared to when they left the capital, both parties had changed a lot. Those who followed Lord Fong to Subei were mainly young officials. If there were no accidents, these people would become the pillars of the imperial court in the future. This experience was extremely beneficial to both them and the imperial court. Because the news from the imperial court was that the people from the imperial court would directly meet with them. Lord Fong brought his people and stayed in the small city to rest and wait for them to arrive. Their resources were almost depleted. Every time they arrived at a place, they had to leave behind a portion. Most of the resources they brought were left in the main city. If there were no more resources along the way, they could only return to the main city first. The imperial court had sent an army to escort the resources. On the way, the officials in the main city had also received the news. "Lord, if we don't act now, when the people from the imperial court arrive, it will be too late." In the dim study, the person who spoke was hidden in the shadows, his voice hoarse. "Go arrange it. Do it cleanly. Don't let anyone discover that something is wrong. Lord, don't worry. This lowly one is very good at this. There definitely won't be any mistakes." The door to the study was opened and closed. The wind blew the candlelight, as if nothing had happened. Lord Fong's group had been on the move for many days and finally had a moment to rest. They took the officials who had come with them to look around. This small city was a bit further north than the first one they had gone to, and the disaster was more serious. However, they had already given out porridge for several days, and the disaster relief work had been carried out smoothly. The situation was much better than when they had first arrived. As they walked, the disaster victims put down what they were doing and greeted them. The officials smiled in response. Occasionally, they would stop and talk to the people on the side of the road. "I suddenly feel that these days are not bad." The official behind Lord Fong sighed. "That's right. In the past, when we were in the capital, we felt that we were very powerful and amazing. Only after coming here did we realize how shallow we were in the past." The officials whispered to each other. The atmosphere was relaxed and lively. The gap between the humble officials and the aristocratic officials had completely disappeared here. Lord Fong listened to their conversation with a hint of a smile in his eyes. Suddenly, the crowd in front of them surged in their direction. The youth beside Lord Fong grabbed him and shielded him behind him. "Lord, be careful." Chapter 119. Just as the youth finished speaking, the refugees in front of them suddenly charged at them with a clear target. "Protect Darren." The officials stared at this scene with their mouths agape, unable to figure out what had happened. The guards surrounded them in the middle, but the other side had more people and they had fewer people. Although they looked like refugees, they were very skilled and their target was clear. They went straight for Darren Fong, who was surrounded by the crowd. The youth was like a wolf cub, standing in front of Darren Fong to prevent anyone from getting close. The attack happened in an instant, and the people around them didn't even have time to react. Facing the surging killing intent, Darren Fong was very calm. He could see that these people's true target was him. He calmly said, "Protect them, don't worry about me." Saying this, he wanted to separate from the crowd. He could guess that these people were sent by some officials in Subei main city. They probably felt that his arrival had ruined their plans, and wanted to eliminate him. Although the officials following Darren Fong were frightened, they had experienced some things in the past few days and weren't as rash as they were at the beginning. They surrounded Darren Fong, unwilling to leave. Through this period of time, they knew very well how much Darren Fong had done. Any one of them could be injured or even killed, but Darren Fong couldn't. They wouldn't watch Darren Fong get hurt in front of them. The refugees didn't care about the officials in front of them. Even though they had some training, these people's strength couldn't compare to the people who came with a purpose. Soon they were thrown to the side. Soon, someone broke through the crowd and came in front of Darren Fong. He picked up something in his hand and stabbed at Darren Fong. Midway, he was stopped by a pair of scarred hands. It was the youth who had been following Darren Fong. The youth had brute strength. For a moment, the people couldn't do anything to him. The person saw that there wasn't much time left and ruthlessly stabbed at the youth. "Careful." The youth leaned to the side and barely dodged, but a wound still appeared on his waist. Blood instantly dyed the clothes on his waist red. Lord Fong frowned. Over the years, he had learned some martial arts and was barely able to deal with the people in front of him. However, he did not dare to delay. He was afraid that these people would ignore everything and hurt the other officials and the surrounding people. There were many busy commoners on this road. After Lord Fong came, he found some work for them so that they could eat their fill. They were also willing to do something for their hometown. Just now they didn't react. Now that they saw that the group of unidentified people wanted to attack the officials who brought them food, they were instantly displeased. "What are you doing? Where are you from? If you dare to harm my lord, you'll have to ask for our permission first." Everyone took their tools and surrounded him. The group of refugees didn't expect more and more people to surround them. They even deliberately chose a place with fewer people to attack. Who would have thought that Lord Fong just happened to send a lot of people here to do things? After experiencing drought, locusts, and famine, the people were sincerely grateful to Lord Fong who had brought them food. Lord Fong's arrival told them that they had not been abandoned by the court. Lord Fong had brought them food and hope. They would not allow anyone to try to harm these officials who had helped them. With the addition of the commoners, the situation was reversed. The refugees were surrounded by the commoners. In order to disguise themselves more, they didn't bring too many weapons that didn't fit their identity as refugees. Their numbers were also smaller than the commoners who surrounded them. Lord Fong and the other officials, don't be afraid. With us here, we won't let these refugees who came from nowhere hurt you. The men from the north were all tall and strong. After Lord Fong came, they were able to eat their fill. They weren't at a disadvantage against these refugees. The officials helped each other up. When they saw the aggressive commoners surrounding the refugees, they felt as if their roles had been reversed. Why did these commoners look even fiercer than the people who had attacked them? The commoners didn't care. They weren't afraid of getting hurt. They broke through the encirclement of the refugees and protected Lord Fong and the others. The commoners who came from behind gradually formed a circle, and surrounded the refugees in the middle. In the stalemate, the sound of horse hooves gradually approached. Lord Fong looked in the direction of the sound. A well-trained soldier wearing armor quickly walked over. What happened? The commoners looked at these people warily. The leader looked at them one by one. When he saw Lord Fong in the middle of the crowd, he clasped his hands and said, "Lord Fong, your subordinate Yang Ziyuan is here to deliver supplies. General Yang, please capture these people dressed as refugees." Lord Fong remembered that the general sent by the imperial court to deliver the supplies was surnamed Yang. The refugees saw that the situation was hopeless and rose up to attack. The commoners who surrounded them were caught off guard and were almost injured. General Yang's men acted in time and didn't cause more casualties. General Yang's army was well disciplined and equipped with elite weapons. They quickly captured all the refugees. Today, I thank all of you for saving my life. Let me thank all of you in advance. No need, no need. The burly man at the front waved his hand. If it wasn't for Lord Fong, we wouldn't be here today. No matter what, we can't let Lord Fong be harmed by these bandits. The others nodded. Seeing this scene, the eyes of the young officials behind Lord Fong couldn't help but turn red. In truth, they had never thought that they would receive anything in return for the things they had done. But today, they were protected by these people who had helped them without fear of death. They were moved beyond words. At this moment, they made a decision in their hearts. In the future, they must become good officials who can benefit the commoners. General Yang followed the large group from the capital and walked a little slower. Lord Fong looked in the direction they came from and could faintly see the shadows of the carriages. "We noticed that there was movement here, so we came to take a look first," General Yang explained. "Since we met, let's go together." Lord Fong looked at the young man beside him who didn't seem to care about his injuries and asked, "General, do you have medicine with you? My guard was injured in order to protect me." General Yang took out a bottle of medicine and handed it to Lord Fong. "There are a few imperial physicians with us. When they arrive, they can take a look at this young friend." "Thank you." Some of the commoners were also lightly injured. Lord Fong found a place to rest nearby and put the injured people together to wait for the large group to arrive. Not long after, the large group arrived. General Yang went up to say a few words and came back with two people dressed as doctors. "Dr. Wu?" Lord Fong was surprised when he saw who it was. "Lord Fong." After the two exchanged greetings, Lord Fong and his disciples came forward to check the injuries of the injured people. Fortunately, no one was seriously injured. The young man's wound was carefully bandaged. Dr. Wu also treated the wounds of the other injured people. A tall man said casually, "It's really nothing. When the north was in chaos, we often had to fight with the people of the northern desert. This kind of injury happened every few days. There's no need to care at all. It will heal on its own in 2 or 3 days." "Will the people of the northern desert still come here?" An official couldn't help but ask. "Yes, before the northern desert was defeated by His Majesty, this place was in chaos. The slightest carelessness could cause death. These men of the northern desert grew up fighting with the people of the northern desert. They were ferocious in their bones, so when they saw someone disguised as a refugee attacking Lord Fong and his group, they dared to surround them. This kind of situation was a common occurrence in the northern desert a few years ago." After a simple rest, the group headed to their destination. On the way, Lord Fong learned a lot of news from General Yang. Lord Fong looked at the carriages behind him. "Aren't these things sent to the main city? His Majesty said to let you handle it. Since the officials in the main city don't need help, we don't need to worry about them. His Majesty also told me to pass on a message to you. It's time to act." This sentence was a signal. Before Lord Fong came, Shang Junlin had privately summoned him and told him that the journey to the northern desert was dangerous. He also gave him an item and told him to wait for orders from the capital. Now General Yang was telling him that it was time to act. General Yang and his group settled down with a large number of supplies. Lord Fong gathered the low-level officials and announced, "I'm going back to the main city. I'll leave this place to you." After handing over the matters here, Lord Fong mounted his horse and walked for a while. Suddenly, he stopped and said to the empty space behind him, "Didn't I tell you to wait for me here?" The young man walked out from the corner. What happened in the northern desert was passed on to Shang Junlin through the hidden dragon guards. Xin Yu also knew about it. Lord Feng saved a young man in the northern desert, and he's being blamed? Feng Jun wants to send the young man back to the capital first. What he's going to do is too dangerous. It's not suitable for the young man to follow him. Therefore, when the carriages returned from the disaster relief in the northern desert, they also gave a young man as a gift. Xin Yu was curious about the young man who saved Lord Feng, and wanted to meet him. Feng Jun asked me to take care of him. Let's meet him first. It was not appropriate to directly summon him into the palace. Xin Yu and Shang Junlin changed into casual clothes and left the palace. Xin Yu wanted to talk to Yan Zheng about the next cooperation. Shang Junlin had a lot of houses outside the palace. Some of them were where he lived before he ascended the throne. This time, he chose to meet the young man at a place where he lived for a short period of time before he ascended the throne. Shang Junlin led Xin Yu inside. At that time, I had just returned from the border, and was not liked by the previous emperor. There was nothing in the palace. Therefore, Feng Jun found a house for me. Xin Yu looked around. The house was not big, but the environment was very quiet. It could be seen that some places were old, but they were still carefully maintained. It was obvious that the owner cared about this place. "Your Majesty has never brought me here before," Xin Yu said as he looked around. "I have a lot of houses in various places. If there is a chance in the future, I will bring you to live there. However, most of them are at the border. I don't know if you can get used to the environment there." Shang Junlin held Xin Yu's hand, his eyes filled with tenderness. "If your Majesty can live there, then I can naturally live there." Xin Yu smiled and looked at him. "I don't know how delicate I am in your Majesty's eyes. In my eyes, you deserves the best." Shang Junlin had been at the border for a long time. He was very clear about the environment there. He could bring a Yu to live there temporarily, but he was not willing to let a Yu live there for a long time. Turning around the corner, Xin Yu saw the young man standing in the courtyard. The young man heard the sound and turned around. His face was blank for a moment. "Have I seen you before?" Chapter 120. Shang Junlin held Xin Yu's hand and walked over. Hearing this, he couldn't help but look at Xin Yu. Before Feng Darren sent the young man back to the capital, he wrote down the young man's background in the memorial. If there was no accident, the young man had never come to the capital. As far as he knew, Xin Yu had never been to Subei, so the two shouldn't have crossed paths. Understanding this point, Shang Junlin looked at the young man with scrutinizing eyes. Xin Yu carefully looked at the young man's appearance. The young man's half-length black hair was casually tied behind his head. His appearance was handsome with a hint of immaturity, and the color of his eyes was light. If he really had contact with the young man, it was impossible for him not to have any impression of him. "Are you sure the person you saw was me?" Xin Yu asked. Shang Junlin held Xin Yu's hand tightly. The young man thought for a while and nodded. Then, under the gaze of Xin Yu, who was looking at a stranger, he shook his head slightly. "I don't know." Xin Yu pulled Shang Junlin to the stone table and sat down. "What's going on?" "When I was young, I saw a person who looked like Gui Jun." The youth finally reacted. The first time he saw that person was many years ago. That person's appearance had given him a great shock when he was young. So much so that when he saw Xin Yu, who looked almost the same as that person, he couldn't help but ask this question. Xin Yu and Shang Junlin looked at each other. They didn't expect to hear such a sentence from the young man's mouth. "Do you still remember what happened at that time?" Xin Yu asked. "I don't really remember. I only remember that Subei was very chaotic and there were wars everywhere. I accidentally fell into the trap of the northern desert people, and was rescued by a very good-looking person. Many years had passed, and he was still young at that time. The young man could only remember the beautiful face of that person under the moonlight, and the cold temperature when that person held him. That was the first time he was held in someone's arms since he could remember. It was also the only time. It was a secret hidden in the deepest part of his memory that he would never say. After the young man finished speaking, he glanced at Xinyu and added, "Just as good-looking as Guijun." Before coming to the capital, Lord Feng had told the young man many things about the capital, and told him to follow the rules and be obedient. The young man trusted Lord Feng very much and agreed to everything. On the way to the capital, Lord Feng had entrusted him with many things about the capital, such as the emperor, the nobles and so on. That person had told him that the emperor was as bright as the moon, and could be recognized at a glance. At first he didn't believe it, but when he saw the real person, he suddenly realized that the person wasn't exaggerating. Seeing the young man staring at Xinyu, Shang Junlin's eyes flashed with displeasure. It was another person who looked like her. Together with Xinyu, this was the second one. Xinyu lowered his eyes and pondered. In his previous life he had lived for more than 10 years, but he had never encountered such a situation. Was it a coincidence? Or did his rebirth change something? Xinyu was more inclined to the latter. Shang Junlin knocked on the table. "Tell me what you know." Although he was displeased, this matter was very likely related to Xinyu's past. Shang Junlin couldn't just ignore a little displeasure in his heart. "That's all I remember. That person saved me, put me in a safe place and left. Later, I searched many places, but I couldn't find any trace of this person. Later, I secretly asked people to inquire, but they all said that they had never seen such a person." Suddenly appearing and disappearing without a trace, Xinyu thought of his mother. Could the person the young man met be related to his mother? After confirming that the young man really didn't know any more information, Xinyu gave up asking. Shang Junlin didn't want the young man to keep focusing on Xinyu, so he took the initiative to ask about Subei. The young man followed Feng Darren, so he was very clear about what happened to Feng Darren during this period. Before coming, Feng Darren also told him that Her Majesty would ask him some questions. He didn't want him to hide anything and answer truthfully. The young man remembered Feng Darren's instructions. When he heard Shang Junlin's question, he pulled back his thoughts and talked about what happened in Subei. The young man was clearly prepared in advance. His answers were clear and organized, without any superfluous words. Through the young man's words, Xinyu and Shang Junlin had a better understanding of what happened to Feng Darren in Subei. With a steady flow of supplies, the situation in Subei improved greatly. This time, the military escorts were sent all the way, and the Subei army was also there to provide support. There were no more incidents of bandits along the way. The group of hidden dragon guards that Gu Huai had brought with him was focused on investigating the internal problems in Subei. Other than saving Feng Darren, they hadn't shown their faces again. No one knew that they had already infiltrated the upper echelons of Subei, and were collecting evidence. They were only one step away from delivering a fatal blow. Those upper echelons of Subei were still dreaming of pocketing the disaster relief supplies that were being sent to Subei from various places. The imperial court is really something. They actually skipped the main city and sent all these things to the surrounding small cities. They're just a bunch of foolish people. What's there to save? You can say these words in front of us, but you can't say them in front of those officials from the capital. I still know my limits. Come, let's continue drinking. The people drinking and making merry still didn't know that the scythe of the Grim Reaper was already hanging over their heads. Those refugees are also incompetent. We let them take advantage of the chaos to kill Feng Jun, but the result is great. They didn't manage to kill him, and were even captured. Darren, those people won't sell us out, right? Do you think that I'm so stupid that I would leave evidence behind? No matter how Feng Jun interrogated those people, they would only get one result. They didn't know that Darren Feng only locked them up and didn't spend any effort to interrogate them. He already knew the result, so why bother? Xinyu and Shang Junlin obtained more details about the assassination from the young man. They pretended to be refugees and acted. They had a good plan. If their plan succeeded, they would be able to provoke the conflict between the officials sent by the imperial court and the local people. At the same time, they would be able to clear their names. It's killing two birds with one stone. Shang Junlin tightened his grip on the cup in his hand. Xinyu rescued the innocent cup from Shang Junlin's hand. Your Majesty, there's no need to be angry over these people who will be dealt with sooner or later. Darren Fong has already successfully handed over the task to the hidden dragon guards. After a few more days, those people won't be able to laugh even if they want to. Shang Junlin held Xin Yu's wrist and pulled her into his arms. If everyone can be like you, I won't be so troubled. Your Majesty, don't think about these unrealistic things. Even if it's me, I won't be able to maintain my original self even after being in the imperial court for a few years. It was easy to say that power blinded people. Maintaining one's original self was easy, but since ancient times, how many people could actually do it? Let's not talk about this anymore. Is Yen Zheng going to bring people to the north soon? Shang Junlin held a strand of Xin Yu's hair and twirled it in his hand. The last time they went out of the palace, other than meeting the young man, they also met Yen Zheng. Coincidentally, there were a lot of supplies that needed to be transported to Subei from the capital. There were also military escorts for the entire journey. Yen Zheng wanted to take this opportunity to test the waters. He chose the northern desert as his first destination. In the private room, Yen Zheng expressed his thoughts. The relationship between the northern desert and our great Huan kingdom has been stable these years. I also have caravans going there. If we go to the northern desert at this time, we can not only borrow the military escort, but also go to the northern desert to scout for information. Xin Yu was taken aback by his bold idea. Choosing such a time of crisis to go over. I know, it's very dangerous, but at the same time, it will also be accompanied by great opportunities. Yen Zheng poured a cup of tea for himself and slowly drank it. As a businessman, we must not forget the word seize the opportunity. I believe that the things in my hands can bring me a lot of wealth. Yen Zheng never hid his ambition. In front of Shen Yu and Shang Junlin, he didn't have to deliberately hide anything. Many times, being frank and open made people appreciate him more. It's good that you've decided. I'll prepare the things you need. When you arrive at the northern desert, be careful. Yen Zheng didn't expect Shen Yu to say words of concern. He was stunned for a moment and then said, even if it's for our long-term cooperation, I'll come back safely. Shang Junlin sat next to Shen Yu. At that time, he didn't have any reaction to this conversation. But after returning to the palace that night, he fiercely bullied Shen Yu. Now there were still traces of him on Shen Yu's body. Shen Yu didn't expect Shang Junlin to suddenly mention this matter. He raised his eyebrows. Your Majesty, you're not jealous this time? Shang Junlin changed to rubbing the skin on Shen Yu's neck. There were still traces of him there. Not only on the neck, but also on other parts of the body that were covered. Shang Junlin's eyes darkened when he thought of that night when the young man's skin was dyed red little by little. You tell me, why am I jealous? The man's voice was low and hoarse. When it entered Shen Yu's ears, it was as if he had returned to that night. The man also used the same voice and asked Shen Yu over and over again. If Shen Yu didn't answer, or if his answer didn't satisfy the man, he would be bullied even more severely. Shen Yu couldn't remember how many things he shouldn't have said under Shang Junlin's coaxing that night. Anyway, when he woke up the next day, there wasn't a single spot on his body that was unharmed. Shen Yu faintly felt a little hot when his memory was awakened. It's indeed in these 2 days. Shen Yu forced himself to clear those memories from his mind. His caravan will depart with the second batch of disaster relief supplies. Time passed in the blink of an eye. Yen Zheng followed the large group out of the city. During the rest time, he looked back at the capital and thought that abandoning those useless people to come to the capital was probably the most correct decision he had ever made. In Yuzhang Palace, Shen Yu's eyes were tightly closed. His long eyelashes fluttered uneasily, casting a shadow. Tears seeped out of the corners of his eyes, and the corners of his eyes were dyed with a layer of rouge, making him even more charming and moving. The tall man in black held him tightly in his arms and kissed him hard. Just like Shang Junlin himself, this kiss was rude and overbearing, with a strong sense of invasion. It was as if he was ruthless and wanted to tear the young man apart and eat him up. Shen Yu could only be forced to accept it. You don't think about other people. I will be angry. Shang Junlin moved back a little, his lips still pressed against Shen Yu's. Your Majesty is unreasonable. You were the one who mentioned it first. Shen Yu opened his eyes. The mist in his eyes hadn't dissipated, and his eyes were glittering, making people sink into them at a glance. Xinyu didn't forget that this time. It was Shang Junlin who mentioned Yanzheng first. Because of what happened that night, he wouldn't mention Yanzheng in front of Shang Junlin these days. Shang Junlin's kiss turned upwards and finally kissed the pair of eyes that made him obsessed. Xinyu closed his eyes and enjoyed the warmth of this moment. This time, I misunderstood you. Shang Junlin apologized in a low voice. But the words he said had a deeper meaning. You can be punished however he wants. Chapter 121. Xinyu glared at him. In the end, are you punishing me or punishing His Majesty? Xinyu didn't forget that after the last incident, he was bedridden for several days. Rather than punishing Shang Junlin, it was better to say that he was rewarding Shang Junlin. Of course it's punishing me. You can do whatever you want. Shang Junlin's voice was as soft as a whisper, with an inexplicable ambiguous meaning, like a hook that crossed Xinyu's heart. The two were very close to each other. Xinyu could clearly feel the change in the man's body, so she deliberately rubbed against him. As she wished, she saw the change in the man's face. What did His Majesty do wrong? Xinyu deliberately said. Why does he need to be punished? Seeing that his goal was not achieved, Shang Junlin's heart flashed with a touch of loss. He wanted to feel Ayu's enthusiasm and initiative again, but he didn't show it on his face. Ayu said no need, so there is no need. Xinyu's eyes moved, then she grabbed Shang Junlin's collar and slightly narrowed her eyes. This is His Majesty's request, don't regret it when the time comes. Naturally. Shang Junlin couldn't ask for more. Xinyu let go of her hand and withdrew from the man's arms. Let's talk about this at night. Shang Junlin's goal has been achieved, so he didn't mind waiting for a while. He walked to the soft couch and sat down, then said, Ayu, do you know how much surprise those kings gave me? Is His Majesty talking about the supplies they sent to Subei? Xinyu followed and sat on the other side. Yes, it really opened my eyes. They said that the things in their hands are more abundant than the national treasury. It's really not a joke. Shang Junlin knew that these vassal kings were extremely rich. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given so much gold and silver just to please Xinyu. However, he didn't expect that they had so much more than he had imagined. Not only Shang Junlin, but the other officials who received the news from the supervisory minister also sucked in a breath of cold air. If it weren't for this opportunity, they would probably never have known that the vassal king had so many things in his hands. No wonder the previous kings were so wary of the vassals. Isn't that so? Look at all these, and this is just one fief. Compared to the treasures in the national treasury, this isn't the only fief in the Great Huan dynasty. At that time, His Majesty said that the vassals should also contribute. Who was against it? They even said that the vassal kings were also in a difficult situation, so we shouldn't force them. Is this their difficulty? Have too much money to spend? The Minister of Revenue couldn't help but raise his voice. After working together for so many years, all the officials knew the temper of the Minister of Revenue, so they were not surprised. Don't be in such a hurry to get angry. The Minister of Works patted the Minister of Revenue's shoulder and reminded him, Isn't this just the first batch of supplies? Subei needs more than this. You're right. If I had known that they had enough money and supplies, I would have asked for more. Fortunately, it's not too late. His Majesty's method of collecting and sending out batches is really good. When the others heard this, the corners of their mouths silently twitched, and they silently mourned for the vassals who were targeted by the Minister of Revenue. The Minister of Revenue sorted out the list and hurriedly prepared for the next stage of the collection of supplies. This time, he felt that if he didn't make the vassals bleed for the next batch, he wouldn't be the Minister of Revenue anymore. The vassals didn't know that the things in their hands were already targeted by the Minister of Revenue. Your Highness, with so many things, do we really have to send them to Subei? The steward of the prince's mansion was at a loss. If we don't let them, the vassals were also very helpless. The court and the people of the world are watching. The people have already contributed. If we don't do anything, do you think His Majesty doesn't have enough and thinks we're an eyesore? Did the vassals want to take out these things? Of course not. who would complain about having too much money. But their way out had already been blocked. If they didn't give it, wouldn't it be announcing to the world that they were disloyal to the great Huan dynasty? They were just deterred by Shang Junlin at the beginning of the year, and now they didn't want to face him at all. The people this prince left in the capital have contacted His Majesty. His Majesty said that if we perform well this time and His Majesty is happy, not only will the past be forgotten, but we will also be rewarded by the court. This prince doesn't want anything, as long as His Majesty doesn't look at this prince. He was very clear that anyone who was targeted by Shang Junlin wouldn't have a good ending. Look at Prince Li, how glorious was he at the beginning, but now he was removed from the imperial family. Then look at Prince Yu, who was still trapped in the capital. He didn't want anything in this life, he just wanted to live the rest of his life in peace. There were many vassals who had the same idea. They had seen Shang Junlin's cruel side with their own eyes and knew how ruthless he was. Those who could live peacefully until now weren't stupid. They couldn't fight against Shang Junlin before, let alone the current full-fledged emperor. However, it was still necessary to feel the pain. Prince Yu's fief. Because Prince Yu himself wasn't there, the officials sent by the court worked together with the officials of Prince Yu's fief to raise the money. Shang Junlin had sent people in advance to find out how much the Prince Yu's fief could contribute. The officials sent by the court knew clearly how much the Prince Yu's fief could contribute. The final decision wouldn't exceed the capacity of the fief, and it would also make the Prince Yu's accumulated wealth bleed. Prince Yu was still in the capital, and the situation was unknown. The officials of his fief naturally didn't dare to play any tricks, so the whole process was very smooth. If Prince Yu knows this news, I don't know how angry he will be. After listening to Shang Junlin, Xin Yu couldn't help but laugh. I will let someone tell him. Shang Junlin's tone had a trace of disgust. Xin Yu found that Shang Junlin now showed more and more emotions in front of him. When he first entered the palace, he almost felt that Shang Junlin was an angry monarch. I don't know what those people are worried about. It's been so long, but they still haven't made a move. Do they really think that Your Majesty won't do anything to Prince Yu? That was why they were fearless and let Prince Yu stay in the secret prison. Maybe it's because they can't even take care of themselves. Yu, do you still remember those people who spread rumors? The Supreme Court got a lot of useful information from them and destroyed several of their strongholds in the capital. Didn't you say that those people couldn't get anything out of them? At first, they didn't know much. Later, they caught a small leader of a force in a tea house. Although this person's status wasn't high, he knew a lot. After being treated by the Supreme Court, he told them all the information he knew. The Supreme Court had caught so many people, but they still didn't get anything. The officials of the Supreme Court were also anxious. It wasn't easy to catch someone who knew something. They used all the means they could to get more information out of him. Hard work paid off. They really did get a lot of useful information. Although they hadn't caught the mastermind behind the scenes, that day wasn't far away. The Minister of Revenue acted quickly. In less than half a day, he drew up a new donation plan. He didn't delay and directly asked to see the emperor. Shang Junlin wasn't very happy that his two-person world with Xin Yu was interrupted. Xin Yu just happened to want to see what the Minister of Revenue was going to do, so he proposed to go together. Imperial study. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. The Minister of Revenue respectfully saluted the two. After the donation, the Minister of Revenue's view of Shen Yu changed greatly. When he saw Shen Yu this time, the excitement in his eyes couldn't be ignored. This is the next step of the plan. Your Majesty, please take a look. The Minister of Revenue presented the memorial. Eunuch Meng took the memorial and put it on the emperor's desk. Shang Junlin opened it and looked at it with Shen Yu. The contents of this memorial were all against the vassal kings. Shen Yu, who was used to cheating the vassal kings, silently lit a candle for the vassal kings who were about to be ruthlessly exploited by the Minister of Revenue. This was simply stepping on the bottom line to ask for things from the vassal kings. The vassal kings couldn't afford it. Too ruthless. Your Majesty, as the vassal kings, since they enjoy the treatment of the great Huan royal family, they should do their best for the great Huan royal family. What's more, they are His Majesty's relatives. It's normal for them to solve problems for His Majesty. The Minister of Revenue talked a lot. The central idea was nothing more than that the vassal kings should contribute money and effort. Otherwise, they would be sorry for the people and the great Huan royal family. For the first time, Xinyu knew that the Minister of Revenue was so eloquent. Shang Junlin's knuckles knocked on the table. His voice was as calm as ever. Take it out for discussion in the court tomorrow. This was passed. The Minister of Revenue was overjoyed. Then he looked at Xinyu with expectant eyes. Does your Majesty have anything else to add? Darren's method is perfect. Under such a gaze, Xinyu felt a little pressure and couldn't help but pull Shang Junlin's sleeve. Shang Junlin chuckled and helped Xinyu out. Well, you go prepare for this matter. Discuss it with the Prime Minister first. The Minister of Revenue slightly withdrew his gaze. Your Majesty. After the Minister of Revenue left the palace, he went straight to the Prime Minister's residence. The Prime Minister and Jiang Huiqing were drinking tea in the courtyard. When they heard that the Minister of Revenue came to visit, they asked the housekeeper to bring him directly. Jiang Huiqing poured a cup of tea and handed it to the Minister of Revenue. Darren, please. The Minister of Revenue was indeed thirsty. He took the cup and drank it in one gulp, saying, I just went to the palace to see His Majesty. His Majesty asked me to take it out at the morning court tomorrow. It was drafted so quickly? The Prime Minister was shocked by Fong Darren's speed. I had some ideas before. Today, I just put in the specific amount. It's not troublesome. The Minister of Revenue roughly explained his idea. That's it. Even though he knew that the Minister of Revenue's performance was amazing, the Prime Minister still twitched his mouth after hearing it. His Majesty agreed to this method? The Minister of Revenue nodded. I originally wanted to ask if Your Majesty had anything to add. Unfortunately, Your Majesty didn't say anything. The Prime Minister understood. If he added a little more, maybe the vassal kings would directly rebel. The Minister of Revenue was really amazing. Your Majesty, if we let the Minister of Revenue do this, will there really be no problems? Xinyu sat next to Shang Junlin and rested his chin on one hand. Shang Junlin was reviewing the memorials. When he heard this, his hand paused slightly. He knows what he's doing. That's right. If he doesn't know what he's doing, how can he be in this position for so long? I'm worrying for nothing. Xinyu yawned. I'll go wash up first. Shang Junlin continued to review the memorials, but he was a little absent-minded. After waiting for a while, he didn't see Xinyu return. He put down his brush and walked towards the bedchamber. Mu Shi was waiting outside. When he saw Shang Junlin, he was about to salute but was stopped by Shang Junlin. No need. Is Your Majesty inside? Yes. After receiving an affirmative answer, Shang Junlin pushed open the door. Dense hot air hit his face. Your Majesty, are you here to receive your punishment? A young man wearing only red underwear walked barefoot. His half-wet hair scattered in front of his chest and behind his back. He was as beautiful as a demon. Chapter 122. Shang Junlin's eyes instantly lit up. He walked in, quietly locked the door, and walked toward Xinyu. The young man who had just taken a bath was simply wearing clothes, revealing a large part of his snow-white skin. Under the contrast of his red clothes, it was dazzlingly white. The water droplets on his hair fell and soaked his clothes, leaving a wet mark. Under the candlelight, the young man's temperament was like a demon, and his lazy appearance was even more seductive. His lover looked like this, but he could only look but not touch. It was indeed a sweet punishment. In order to avoid scaring people, Shang Junlin restrained the burning emotions in his eyes and approached the young man step by step. How does you plan to punish me? After getting closer, Shang Junlin subconsciously reached out and wanted to pull the young man into his arms. Xinyu reached out a hand and pressed Shang Junlin's chest. Shang Junlin stopped and looked at Xinyu in confusion. You? His eyes were burning hot, and they slid over Xinyu's skin inch by inch. It was as if there was a pair of invisible hands caressing down along with his gaze. Xinyu's body gradually turned red. Since it's a punishment, Your Majesty, of course you have to listen to me. Xinyu felt that his throat was a little hoarse, so he cleared it. Okay, I'll listen to you. His words were polite, but his eyes were still unbridled. The first thing your majesty needs to do. Xinyu glanced at the arm on his waist. Let go of me and take a step back. Shang Junlin did as he was told, and a trace of regret flashed in his eyes. Xinyu was satisfied with his obedience, so he turned and walked towards the inner room. Your Majesty, follow me. Hearing the footsteps behind him, Xinyu was in a good mood and raised the corner of his mouth. After entering the inner room, the heat became more obvious. Shang Junlin looked around and found the source of the heat behind the screen. It was a huge bathtub. Dense steam was rising from the bathtub, spreading in all directions in midair, filling the entire space. Xinyu didn't stop and walked straight to the bathtub. When he was almost there, he turned his head and invited, Your Majesty, do you want to join us? Shang Junlin's red robe slid down his shoulder, and his gaze fell on it, unable to move away for a long time. His Adam's apple bobbed violently as he walked over and said in a low and hoarse voice, I will serve you as she bathes. The red color slid off completely. Before Xinyu could react, Shang Junlin carried her by the waist and gently put her into the water. Xinyu looked up at Shang Junlin. The man's eyes were filled with uncontrollable emotions. He could only see himself in those long and narrow eyes, and he could only see himself. Xinyu stretched out her fair arm from the water and hooked it around the man's neck. She gently exhaled. Your Majesty, do you like it? I like it. Shang Junlin patted the young man's back. His sleeves sank into the water, becoming the only trace of black in the water. Muscles of ice and bones of snow. Shang Junlin had always known that Xinyu was very beautiful, but at this moment, the young man was so beautiful that he couldn't move his eyes away. Other than the young man, his eyes and heart couldn't put anything else. He wanted to leave his mark on the young man's snow-like skin. He wanted the red plum blossoms to slowly bloom on the snow. He wanted the young man to be stained with his traces from the inside out. He wanted to completely possess the young man in front of him. You. Shang Junlin's voice became even hoarser, with an unresolvable desire. He closed his eyes, not wanting to frighten the young man with the emotions in his eyes. With the man's hand supporting her from behind, Xinyu let go of one hand and slid it down along the man's lapel, finally stopping at the waist belt. Your Majesty, my clothes are wet. Xinyu raised her head, revealing the beautiful lines of her neck. Shang Junlin was still wearing the imperial robe, and his hair was meticulously tied behind his head. On the other hand, Xinyu's black hair was loose, and water droplets slid down her shoulders and into the water. Xinyu's fingers moved slightly, and the waist belt was untied. Didn't your Majesty say that you want to serve me? Under the steam, the snow was dyed pink. Her entire body, except for her lips, were red like ripe fruits that were tempting to be picked. Shang Junlin's Adam's apple bobbed, and his eyes became darker and darker. He could clearly feel the changes in his body caused by the young man's movements. He allowed the fire in his heart to spread. The raging fire set the prairie ablaze, burning everything. I will definitely satisfy you. Shang Junlin raised his other hand unhurriedly. The outer robe fell, followed by the inner robe. Throughout the whole process, his eyes were fixed on Xinyu, as if he wanted to ignite the fire on the young man. Xinyu did not avoid his gaze. She half leaned on the edge of the bathtub and calmly watched Shang Junlin's performance. Xinyu slightly moved her eyes away when the last cover was no longer effective. The water surface rippled, and before Xinyu could react, the man had already sat in the bathtub. The water surface rippled even more, and Xinyu fluttered and fell into the man's arms. Shang Junlin was a man of his words. He carefully washed every inch of the bathtub, not missing a single spot. Xinyu gasped for breath, and slightly tightened her grip on the edge of the bathtub. I didn't ask you to bathe like this. The warm water flowed in through the gap, and Xinyu's fingers suddenly tightened. The white snow was dyed with a layer of more gorgeous color than before. Red plum blossoms bloomed on the snow, and as the water rippled, it was a beautiful sight. Didn't you ask me to help you bathe? Shang Junlin chuckled. I should do my best to satisfy you. Do you like it? I only asked you to do what you should do, not what you shouldn't do. Xinyu bit the man's shoulder to vent her anger. Shang Junlin's hands didn't stop moving, and Xinyu soon lost her strength. She softly fell into the man's arms, allowing him to do whatever he wanted. More and more red plum blossoms bloomed on the snow, and the sound of water occasionally mixed with a few sobs, which tugged at the heartstrings. It wasn't good to soak in the water for too long, so Shang Junlin carried the young man out of the bathtub, casually wrapped him in a cloak, and walked to the bed. Bastard! Shin Yu curled up in his arms, and even her voice was trembling. You be good. If you don't prepare in advance, you won't be able to bear it later. Shang Junlin's tone was gentle, but there was a storm in his eyes. He wanted to truly possess this person. Shang Junlin had this idea for more than a day or two. Ordinary contact was no longer enough to satisfy him, and he wanted to possess Shin Yu on a deeper level. Shin Yu lay on the bed on her back, with one arm on her forehead. The crimson color spread down her neck and disappeared into the quilt. Shang Junlin held the quilt above her and looked at her attentively. You. Shang Junlin gently brushed away the hair on Shin Yu's cheek, and his voice was as mellow as strong wine. I want you. Shin Yu moved her arm away and looked at him without blinking. If I say no, will your majesty stop? Shang Junlin was silent. The arrow on the bow had to be shot. Obviously he wouldn't. Shin Yu didn't really want to refuse. When he first acquiesced, he was already prepared to accept Shang Junlin, although Shang Junlin stopped because of him. To be honest, Shin Yu was very surprised at that time. Not to mention that Shang Junlin stopped many times later when he frowned. Every time, Shang Junlin only touched him briefly. This kind of tolerance was rare for an emperor. However, Shin Yu also resisted this. He didn't resist Shang Junlin, otherwise, he wouldn't let Shang Junlin mess with him every time. He just felt that he couldn't bear it. Shang Junlin's physical strength was too good. While he was thinking, Shang Junlin had already bent down and kissed him. Soft kisses fell on Shin Yu's forehead, eyes, nose tip, all the way down, and finally sucked on Shin Yu's lips and tasted it carefully. Shin Yu couldn't help but hug him and indulge in this different gentle kiss. Oh, suddenly, Shin Yu let out a muffled groan. The crimson color faded from his face at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his eyebrows were tightly knitted because of the pain. Shang Junlin's action was without any warning. Shin Yu tightly grasped the thing in his hand. Shang Junlin let go of his lips, and he finally cried out in pain. It was too painful. This was the only feeling Shin Yu had at this moment. Shin Yu was in so much pain that he just wanted to curl up. However, under the man's restraint, he could only be forced to stretch out. Tears seeped out of the corners of his eyes, but they were quickly kissed away by the man. I love you. Shang Junlin kissed Shin Yu's ear. His low and deep voice entered Shin Yu's ears. It was extremely gentle, but his actions were firm and irresistible. The storm swept over, and Shin Yu was caught in the center of the storm. Ups and downs. At dawn, the young man's sobbing voice sounded from the tent. I'm sleepy. A snow-white wrist stretched out of the red tent. Not long after, it was held by another hand and brought back. Sleep if you're sleepy. The man's voice was full of satisfaction. Shin Yu didn't know when he fell asleep. When he woke up, it was already noon. He moved his body and instantly gasped. There was no place that wasn't screaming in pain. Shin Yu slumped back on the bed. The bed curtain was opened, and a man wearing an emperor's robe came in with a bowl of hot porridge. You're awake? Shin Yu turned his face away. He didn't want to look at the culprit who made him feel uncomfortable everywhere. Shang Junlin, who was full, didn't mind Shin Yu throwing a tantrum. He put the porridge on the table. Are you hungry? No. Shin Yu suddenly closed his mouth. It was hard to imagine that such a hoarse voice came from him. Shang Junlin sat on the bed and carried Shin Yu out. Drink some water first. The water that was fed to his mouth had a sweet taste. Shin Yu's throat was uncomfortable, and he was thirsty. He drank a cup of water from Shang Junlin's hand. After that, he felt his throat was better. Your Majesty, you didn't look like you were receiving punishment yesterday. Instead, you looked like you were receiving a reward. Shin Yu looked at him angrily. I didn't restrain myself. Shang Junlin kissed Shin Yu's forehead. But if he could do it again, he wouldn't be able to restrain himself. Drink some porridge first. Shang Junlin brought the porridge to his mouth and blew on it to cool it down. Then he fed it to Shin Yu's mouth. Xingyu didn't want to move a finger. He was exhausted from the whole night, and was indeed hungry. He obediently ate a bowl of porridge, and finally recovered some strength. Xingyu was wearing pajamas. As he moved, the collar of his pajamas opened a little, revealing sporadic mottled marks. Shang Junlin lowered his eyes and hid the thick black color in his eyes. These marks were planted by him last night. He also knew that there were many such marks on the young man's body in places that couldn't be seen. Sensing danger, Xingyu moved to the side. He didn't want to experience what happened last night again. He was still feeling uncomfortable, especially at a certain part of his body. He couldn't get rid of the strange feeling, but it was at that part. He couldn't ignore it even if he wanted to. Xinyu's hands and feet were weak. Before he could move much, he was caught by Shang Junlin. Xinyu's face changed slightly. It was the same last night. He wanted to escape several times, but he was caught by Shang Junlin at the last moment. Then he had to face a new round of violent storms. Every time, Shang Junlin's strength would be stronger than the previous time. No matter how Xinyu cried or begged, he couldn't stop for a moment. Where does you want to go? Hearing the same words, Xinyu subconsciously trembled. Chapter 123. Shang Junlin noticed that he seemed to have scared Xinyu. He coughed softly and hugged the stiff young man. I'm not such a beast. I won't do anything now. Xinyu looked at him suspiciously. Your Majesty, you promised more than once last night that this would be the last time. After he tricked Xinyu into believing him, he reverted to his old ways. Shang Junlin rubbed his hair. I really won't do anything. I'm sorry for the torment last night. Then we'll continue next time. Xinyu glanced at him. Shang Junlin smiled but didn't say anything. Xinyu was bullied too much last night. The corners of his eyes were still red, and his lips were a little swollen. Shang Junlin rubbed his lips and said softly, I'll apply some medicine for you. After last night, Shang Junlin applied medicine for Xinyu once. When the medicine was applied, the young man who had fallen into a deep sleep groaned softly due to the pain. Shang Junlin almost turned into a wolf again, but his remaining reason stopped him. This was the first time. Shang Junlin couldn't hold back, and did it a little too hard. The area was a little red and swollen. He really couldn't bear any more. Shang Junlin sighed and carefully applied the medicine to the patient. The medicine was specially made by the Imperial Institute of Medicine. It was very effective. No need. Xinyu refused without thinking. He sensed his body. Other than a little strange feeling, everything else was fine. He should have applied the medicine once. His body was very fresh and there was nothing that shouldn't be in his body. He remembered that before he fell asleep last night, his body was sticky. It was obvious that Shang Junlin had cleaned him up. Shang Junlin didn't force him. The medicine was very effective. He only needed to apply it once in the morning and once in the morning. Xinyu's body was sore and weak. This time it was more serious than before. Shang Junlin didn't want to let go of him. He leaned lazily in Shang Junlin's arms with his eyes slightly closed. He let his thoughts wander aimlessly. Your Majesty, don't you need to attend to your business? Seeing that Shang Junlin had no intention of leaving, Xinyu asked. Jin wants to spend more time with you. Shang Junlin rubbed against Xinyu's cheek. Jin also wants you to spend more time with Jin. Shang Junlin didn't want to be separated from Xinyu even for a moment after their intimate contact. If it wasn't for Eunuch Meng's dissuasion, he wouldn't even want to go to the morning court. If it wasn't for Eunuch Meng's dissuasion, he would have taken Xinyu with him. Xinyu also enjoyed the feeling of snuggling up to Shang Junlin. This was the fastest morning court session that the ministers had ever had. His Majesty seemed to have more important things to do. After dealing with the things that had to be dealt with, he hurriedly dismissed the court session. The Minister of Revenue's plan was to be completed in several steps. After they were separated, those requests were nothing to the vassal kings. In the end, when they came together, the dust had already settled, and there was no way to change anything. The Prime Minister took Jiang Huiqing and the other two back to the Fu. In order to make things more convenient, the three almost treated the Prime Minister's Fu as their second home. The place they stayed the most every day was the Prime Minister's Fu. The Prime Minister knew about Shang Junlin's plan. He also felt that these three people were capable of taking on heavy responsibilities and would be more careful in training them. The Prime Minister was definitely one of the people who wanted the imperial court to welcome new blood as soon as possible. Because Jiang Huiqing and the others were going to Subei in the future, the Prime Minister intended to let them know more about Subei. During this time, the things they had to deal with were mostly related to Subei. During this time, the imperial court was busy with the matters in Subei. Jiang Huiqing and the other two didn't have any suspicions. They didn't know that when the matters in Subei were over, they wouldn't continue to return to Hanlin Academy. Instead, they would follow the other officials of the imperial court to Subei and officially start their political career in Dahuan. Subei. Batch after batch of supplies were sent to Subei. They weren't sent to the main city, but to the various small places. The officials sent by the imperial court and the local officials of the small places worked together to deal with the disaster relief matters. It was as if the main city had been excluded. After working with Lord Feng for some time, these young officials from the capital were no longer the same as before. With Lord Feng's guidance, they were now able to independently deal with the disaster relief matters in the small cities. With food, the commoners smiled more often and their spirits were refreshed. Keeping in mind Lord Feng's teachings, the officials didn't let the commoners idle. Instead, they arranged for them to do what they could, allowing those who still had energy to participate in the post-disaster reconstruction. While the rumors were spreading through the capital and other places, a similar situation occurred in Subei. The commoners of the small cities were gathered together and led by officials to work. On the way, the atmosphere could be considered relaxed. 10 days ago, I wouldn't have dared to imagine that we would be able to wait until this day. 10 days ago had been the day that the imperial court had brought the disaster relief supplies over. Me too. We've already finished the last of our food. My lord, it's fine to starve for a while, but my family still has a little one who can't endure hunger. If the imperial court hadn't come in time, my little one might have. The middle-aged man didn't continue, but his companions all knew what he hadn't said. The middle-aged man's wife had passed away while giving birth to his child. He had worked hard to raise his child until he was in his teens, and just when there was hope, a drought had suddenly descended. Me too. All of you should remember that when I was sick, it was you who brought me food. At the time, I was lying in my room thinking, at least give me something to eat. Being a full ghost is better than being a hungry ghost. When I turned around and saw all of you bringing in porridge, I was given a fright. No wonder you had such a big reaction. At the time, I really thought that I was going to die. The gods heard my prayers and fulfilled my wish before I died. Gods. Someone suddenly sneered. If there really is a god, why hasn't he cared about our lives for so long? If you ask me, no god is more reliable than the imperial court. The food we're eating now is imported from all over the Great Huan dynasty. It has nothing to do with the gods. That's true. Didn't someone come to us and ask us to believe in some god? At the time, I already felt that it was unreliable. It's not that it's unreliable. When something happens, they run faster than anyone else. They didn't know that their conversation had been overheard by the soldiers nearby. Soon, it would spread to the imperial court. Through this method, the imperial court could better understand the situation in Subei. They were chatting happily when someone suddenly asked in a low voice, "Why do we still have to work for the government? Shouldn't they be doing these things?" The group suddenly fell silent. Then someone retorted, "How is it working for the government? Aren't we working for ourselves?" That's right. We're going to live here in the future. Besides, the government has already paid us. But aren't those things given to us by the imperial court? Why do we have to work for them before they're paid? The person continued. I say, do you not understand life? The men of Subei were forthright, but they weren't stupid. Some officials had already explained to them why the imperial court had to do this. They also felt that it was better to get paid through their own labor than to eat for free. What's more, they could still receive food every day. Their pay was separated and could be saved up for later use. Although they didn't have to worry about food and water with the imperial court's people here, once they left, Wouldn't they still have to rely on themselves? It was a good thing for them to restore Su Bei as soon as possible. That's not right. You're sneaky and you're still saying such things. Are you up to no good? Someone saw that something was wrong and ran to the side of the accompanying official, saying, Darren, a suspicious person was found over there. That person didn't have time to do anything before he was caught red-handed. Similar things happened in other places in Su Bei. Except for a few people who were fanned, most of them were caught before they could do anything. Xinyu was tired and couldn't sleep, so he lay on Shang Junlin's lap and let Shang Junlin read him the memorial. Darren Fong must have made preparations in advance. Su Bei has been dry for so many days, and the imperial court went there late. It's quite easy for someone to do something, Xinyu said. Every time Fong Jun went to a place, he would gather the local people and say something to them, explaining the reason for their follow-up actions. After he left, the officials who followed him learned from him and did the same thing. In this way, it won't be so easy to fan the people. Shang Junlin held the memorial in one hand and stroked Xinyu's hair with the other. When the people that Darren Fong brought back come back, we can investigate whether they can continue to be used. Xinyu pondered. Although Shang Junlin wanted to suppress the aristocratic families, he didn't completely forbid their existence. The most important thing for a ruler was balance. Whether it was aristocratic families or poor families, it was best to have equal power. I will pay attention to their follow-up performance. Shang Junlin nodded. But people always change. This moment of enlightenment didn't mean eternity. Especially in the officialdom, it was easy to change a person. Shang Junlin didn't need every official to be a saint. That was unrealistic. As long as they could be used by him and bring tangible benefits to the great Huan dynasty, he could turn a blind eye. With the help of the entire country, the situation in Su Bei improved day by day. Although the drought hadn't been relieved yet, the epidemic that the imperial court had been worried about didn't happen. After the natural disaster, the most frightening thing was the epidemic that followed. The imperial court sent a large number of doctors, led by imperial physician Wu, to guard against the epidemic every day. Finally, there was no problem that worried them. Xinyu thought about it carefully and confirmed that there was only a drought in Su Bei in his previous life, and there was no large-scale epidemic. He was slightly relieved. The epidemic that left the deepest impression on him happened a few years later. It was also after that Shang Junlin's reputation took a turn for the worse. There was still a lot of time until now, and the epidemic wasn't completely caused by the natural disaster. If the problem of Fei Meng could be solved in advance, the nightmarish scene in his previous life might not appear again. Young master, the flower sent by Princeton has bloomed. Mushi came in with a bowl of boiled medicine. After last night, although Shang Junlin had checked carefully, he was still worried. He asked Imperial Physician Gu to come to Yuzhong Palace to take Xinyu's pulse. After taking his pulse, Imperial Physician Gu left a new prescription that was mainly used to nourish the body. Xinyu frowned slightly when he saw the medicine. Shang Junlin found it funny. He put down the booklet in his hand and took the medicine from Mushi. When did the flower bloom? When Princeton sent the flower, it was just a bud. After so many days, there was no sign of it blooming. Why did it suddenly bloom? Xinyu was also very curious about this question. Around 9 o'clock last night, Mushi replied. Xinyu didn't know why his heart skipped a beat. This time just happened to be when he and Shang Junlin. Why did the flower bloom at this time? Was it a coincidence? Chapter 124. Xinyu glanced at Shang Junlin and saw that his expression didn't change. He knew that Shang Junlin didn't think too deeply about this matter. Slowly retracting his gaze, Xinyu thought to himself, maybe he thought too much. It's just a flower. How could it be related to this kind of thing? Maybe he and Shang Junlin didn't do anything that night, and it would still blossom. Seeing that the two masters didn't have any other orders, Mushi left. When Xinyu and Shang Junlin were alone, they didn't like the palace servants to serve them. The servants of Yuzhong Palace also knew this. Unless the master called them, they wouldn't easily come forward. Shang Junlin stirred the medicine in the bowl and scooped up a spoonful. Just as he was about to feed Xinyu, his hand was held down by Xinyu. "I'll do it myself." Xinyu half propped himself up and sat up. No matter how much he tried to improve the taste of the medicine, it wouldn't be very good. Xinyu didn't want to drink it spoonful by spoonful. "You don't want me to feed you?" "The taste of the medicine is too hard to describe. I want to drink it directly." Looking at Xinyu's outstretched hand, Shang Junlin put down the spoon and handed the bowl to Xinyu as he wished. Xinyu drank the medicine in one gulp. Shang Junlin brought a handkerchief and candied fruit over. Xinyu leaned over and took the candied fruit from Shang Junlin's hand. His soft lips and skin touched and parted. She was like a noble cat. Shang Junlin's eyes darkened. He put one hand around Xinyu's waist and pulled him directly into his arms. He lowered his head and kissed Xinyu. "I'll try it." "Is it bitter?" After the kiss, Xinyu pressed his forehead against Shang Junlin's and asked. "It's sweet." Shang Junlin rubbed against Xinyu like a big dog. "You is sweet everywhere." After drinking the medicine, Xinyu felt a little sleepy. Shang Junlin was very careful that night, so he didn't suffer any injuries. However, after being tormented for a whole night, it wasn't easy for him to recover his vitality. Otherwise, Imperial Physician Gu wouldn't have given him a new prescription and reminded His Majesty to control himself. "Sleep for a while if you're tired. Do you want to go to bed?" Shang Junlin touched his face. Xinyu shook his head. He didn't want to lie in bed all day long. It would remind him of some bad things from his previous life. Shang Junlin didn't force him. In his heart, he didn't want Xinyu to rest on the bed. Compared to other places, he wanted Xinyu to lie in a place where he could reach. Xinyu nestled in the man's arms, found a comfortable position, and slowly closed her eyes. He had a dream again. In the dream, it was a rainy day. He was lying on the bed. His body was heavy, as if something was pressing down on him. He couldn't even lift a hand. Separated by a screen, there were people walking around outside. At the same time, there were also low voices. Xinyu wanted to hear what they were saying, but he couldn't. Xinyu seemed to be separated from this world by something. He couldn't see the specific scenery around him, nor could he hear the voices coming from not far away. He was in the middle of it, but he was also drifting away. When he woke up, it was already evening. The afterglow of the setting sun shone through the window. Suddenly, it seemed to overlap with the dream. A pair of warm hands touched his forehead. Do you feel uncomfortable? You're sweating a lot." The man's low voice broke Xinyu's daze. His drifting thoughts were pulled back to the present world. Xinyu felt the constant heat from the man's body, and also felt the stickiness of his body. Xinyu subconsciously rubbed against the man's hand. "My clothes are wet. Jin will take you to wash up." After taking a bath and changing into clean clothes, Xinyu finally felt less uncomfortable. He hadn't dreamed about his previous life for a long time. He didn't know why he suddenly dreamed about it today. "Your Majesty, was it raining just now?" "No. When Jin held you just now, you didn't sleep well and sweated a lot. Did you have a nightmare?" Shang Junlin took a dry handkerchief and wiped Xinyu's hair. Xinyu nodded. "It seems so, but I can't remember the details." After waking up, everything in the dream receded like a tide. Xinyu only remembered the urgency in the dream. He couldn't remember anything else. Jin will let Imperial Physician Gu take a look. In the middle of the night, Imperial Physician Gu was once again summoned to Yuzhong Palace. "Thank you, Imperial Physician Gu." Xinyu stretched out his hand. For the sake of comfort, Xinyu was dressed casually. His black hair was just casually draped behind his back. He looked lazy, but people couldn't take their eyes off him. Imperial Physician Gu looked down and focused on taking Xinyu's pulse. He originally thought that His Majesty summoned him because His Majesty was injured in that incident. After all, he had been summoned not long ago for this reason. After taking Xinyu's pulse, Imperial Physician Gu realized that he was overthinking. His Majesty's body is fine. After Imperial Physician Gu left, Shang Junlin hugged Xinyu and buried his face in the back of his neck. He said in a muffled voice, "You don't leave me." "I won't leave." Xinyu comforted the suddenly uneasy big dog. Shang Junlin silently hugged the person in his arms tightly. After the incident, Shang Junlin summoned Imperial Physician Gu alone. He mainly asked about Shen Yu's physical condition. Before Shen Yu fully recovered, Shang Junlin couldn't be at ease. Is His Majesty's body really fine? Shang Junlin's body was cold. He looked at Imperial Physician Gu with his dark eyes. Your Majesty, everything I said is true. I dare not hide anything. Imperial Physician Gu, don't let me down. His Majesty is my savior. I will do my best to save him. Your Majesty, please rest assured. Shang Junlin knocked on the armrest of the chair. Then tell me, what's wrong with His Majesty today? From his pulse, His Majesty's body is indeed fine. It's inevitable for normal people to have nightmares. Your Majesty, you don't have to worry too much. What Imperial Physician Gu said was true. Anyone could have nightmares. It wasn't a big deal. Shang Junlin naturally knew this. However, this matter concerned Shen Yu, so he couldn't ignore it. You can get up. Imperial Physician Gu stood up. He hesitated for a moment and said, Your Majesty, His Majesty's body is weak. Please restrain yourself when you do things. Imperial Physician Gu still remembered the first time he came to check on Shen Yu. The young man only had one arm sticking out of the bed curtain. That arm was covered with red marks. Even the gaps between the fingers were covered. It was easy to imagine how serious the other parts of his body were. I know I shouldn't ask about this matter, but His Majesty, I really can't stand your torment. Imperial Physician Gu felt the pressure around him getting lower and lower. He silently swallowed the rest of his words. I know. Shang Junlin's face was a little dark. Write a note for me. Yes, Your Majesty. Shen Yu slept comfortably. The next day he felt much better. However, he still had some trouble walking. Shen Yu didn't want others to see him lose his self-control. He spent almost all day on the soft bed. Fortunately, Shang Junlin knew that he was in the wrong and would massage his sore parts. The disaster in Subei was alleviated. The people who spread the rumors were arrested. However, the person behind the scenes was very calm. Even if many of their strongholds were destroyed, they still didn't reveal anything. Shen Yu lay on Shang Junlin's lap. He played with the man's long hair. Last time, Your Majesty said that you would tell the king of you about the thief. Does he know now? I asked the jailer to accidentally let it slip in front of him. That night, the king of you made a scene in the secret prison. The jailer was so angry that he kindly told the king of you everything related to the king of you's thief, the capital, and the king of you. In fact, if the king of you thought about it carefully, he would find that there were many things wrong with this matter. For example, why would the jailer tell him these things? For example, why would the jailer know these things so clearly? There were many suspicious points. Unfortunately, the king of you was so angry that he couldn't think of these things. In this life, the king of you had no chance to ascend the throne. Whether it was Shen Yu or Shang Junlin, they wouldn't allow him to ascend the throne. Shen Qingran was also trapped in the Marquis Fu. Because of Shen Yu's interference, in this life, the two had very little interaction, let alone develop feelings like in the previous life. Thinking of Shen Qingran, Shen Yu felt that it was very interesting. At the same time, in the previous life, Shen Qingran was trapped in the Imperial Palace and couldn't enter or leave. In this life, he didn't enter the Imperial Palace but was still trapped. It was just that the location changed from the Imperial Palace to the Marquis Fu. He didn't know what Shen Qingran was thinking. Shen Qingran was naturally unwilling. The better Shen Yu's life was, the more unwilling he was. However, he didn't know who ordered the servants in the Marquis Fu to talk about how Shen Guijun was favored outside his courtyard every few days. It was the same today. Shen Qingran was lying on the bed, tossing and turning. Suddenly, he heard the discussion outside the window. It wasn't loud, but it was just enough for him to hear clearly. It was as if they were talking deliberately to let him hear it. Did you see it today? His Majesty rewarded a lot of things. The Marquis was so happy today that he gave us a lot of rewards. Is it also because of Guijun this time? Otherwise, Guijun is the eldest legitimate son of the Marquis Fu. He can't be compared to any cat or dog. Some people relied on the Marquis's favor and jumped around more happily than anyone else. Look at them now. They were beaten back to their original state. A concubine's son is a concubine's son. He only has this little eyesight. Look at Guijun. That's the bearing that a legitimate son should have. Guijun is now favored by His Majesty. Finally, there's a silver lining. His Majesty really dotes on Guijun. I heard that Yuzhong Palace receives rewards every few days. They are all precious things. What His Majesty rewarded to the Marquis Fu is nothing compared to those. It's just a drizzle. Shen Qingren couldn't hear the rest of the words clearly. Jealousy was gnawing at his heart like a poisonous snake. The words of the servants were like needles stabbing at him. Those words circled around his mind, constantly reminding him that how glorious Xinyu was. He was a failure. He thought that he could always suppress Xinyu. However, he didn't know when their positions had been completely reversed. Xinyu was already standing at a height that he could only look up to. He had the emperor's only favor, and was favored by thousands of people. Everyone had to lower their heads in front of him. But what about him? Could he only shrink in this small courtyard and spend the rest of his life? The light in Shen Qingran's eyes dimmed. No, he would never allow himself to end up like this. Xinyu, who was missed by Shen Qingran, was in a tug-of-war with Shang Junlin. Your Majesty, Xinyu held the quilt and stared at Shang Junlin vigilantly. I really can't. Why didn't you agree? Is it because he doesn't like me? For some reason, Xinyu felt that Shang Junlin's tone was a little sad. Before he could say anything, Shang Junlin leaned over and pulled him and the quilt together under his body. You obviously liked. Xinyu raised his hand to cover his mouth. Then he felt something soft rubbing against his palm. Xinyu quickly withdrew his hand. Chapter 125. There was a wet feeling in his palm. Xinyu's fingers curled up slightly in his sleeves. He realized that Shang Junlin liked his hand very much. When he did that, he especially liked to guide his hand to leave marks on his body. Previously, when he was worried about his body and didn't do it to the end, he also liked to let his hand hold him. Some memories uncontrollably emerged in his mind, and Xinyu's face gradually turned red. Shang Junlin propped himself on top of Xinyu, and saw the changes on his face clearly. He laughed softly and said, "What is you thinking about?" Xinyu pulled the quilt to cover half of his face and said, "Nothing." He could feel the heat on his face. His face must have turned completely red. It was rare to see Xinyu like this, so Shang Junlin didn't want to miss it. He propped his elbow on the side of Xinyu's face, lowered his body, and pulled down the quilt covering Xinyu's face with one hand. His face was almost touching Xinyu's face and he said, "Why are you blushing if you aren't thinking about anything? Is you shy?" No. Xinyu refused to admit it. Without the quilt covering his face, Shang Junlin could clearly see every change in Xinyu. He saw that Xinyu's eyes flashed when he said this, and he couldn't help but glance to the side. He knew that Xinyu was being stubborn. The Xiaoyu was even more delicious. Shang Junlin opened his mouth and gently bit on Xinyu's blushing face. Xinyu suddenly opened his eyes and felt a wet feeling from the place where he was bitten. "Your Majesty. You call my name," Shang Junlin whispered. "Alin?" Xinyu called out tentatively and found that the man was even more excited. He could feel it through the quilt. Xinyu silently moved to the side. Shang Junlin was unwilling to let go of him so easily. He pulled him back together with the quilt. "Let me look at you." Shang Junlin's voice was low and hoarse, with a desire to control himself. Xinyu had heard this man say "hug me tightly" in her ear countless times when she was at the peak. Not only his face, but Xinyu also felt that his body was starting to heat up. Shang Junlin slowly peeled Xinyu out of the quilt. The young man was only wearing a white nightgown. His long hair was gently draped over his back. His hair was black, and his skin was snow-white. The light pink color spread out on his snow-white skin. Under the soft candlelight, he looked even more beautiful. Shang Junlin's eyes became darker and darker. Now, Xinyu was like a budding flower, waiting for the final rain to completely unfold. Shang Junlin had seen this flower in full bloom before. That was the result of his hard work. His watering made this flower bloom little by little, and also made this flower stained with his own imprint, from the inside out. The man's gaze was like a fire that could easily ignite everything. Xinyu felt a little thirsty and unconsciously licked his lips. He saw with his own eyes that because of this action, Shang Junlin's gaze became dangerous. Xinyu really wanted to continue covering himself with the quilt, but Shang Junlin would not give him the chance. The man lowered his head and kissed Xinyu's watery lips. Sucking, grinding, dancing. There were still traces on Xinyu's body, which were left by Shang Junlin last time. Soon, new traces covered the old ones one by one. On the white snow, the red plum blossom slowly bloomed. The half-open flower was forced to unfold, and it was dyed with another kind of scent from the inside out. Shang Junlin was very gentle this time. After Xinyu fell into a deep sleep, he was not woken up by him. This time, Xinyu slept very deeply and was not disturbed by nightmares. It would have been better if he did not wake up with some kind of sore feeling in the morning. The sky was not yet bright, and the man's scent was still wrapped around him. This was a rare morning when Xinyu woke up and Shang Junlin had not yet woken up. The man who had not yet woken up hugged him and gently rubbed against him. Xinyu bit his lower lip to prevent himself from making a sound. Joy and suffering alternated, and every moment became extremely difficult to bear. Fortunately, Shang Junlin woke up soon. You? Get out! Xinyu gritted his teeth. He was so angry that he even forgot about Shang Junlin's identity. Shang Junlin was silent. Obviously, he did not expect to encounter such a big impact when he woke up. Shang Junlin hugged the young man in his arms, and did the opposite of what Xinyu wanted. Bastard! When the two of them woke up, it was already 2 hours later. Shang Junlin carried Xinyu to wash his body, put on clean clothes for him, and carried him to the soft bed. The palace servants lowered their heads to clean up the room. Xinyu lay on the soft bed weakly with his eyes slightly closed. He did not even have the strength to scold people now. On the other hand, Shang Junlin was full of energy and could not hide the fatigue on his face. Xinyu simply closed his eyes. Out of sight, out of mind. Shang Junlin did not go to the morning court today. When it was almost time for the morning court, Eunuch Meng stood outside the door and listened to the muffled sounds coming from the room. He did not know whether to open his mouth or not. Of course, he knew what such sounds meant, but he did not expect to hear it at this time. Listening to the faint sounds coming from inside, he was afraid that it would not end in a short time. Eunuch Meng looked at the closed door of the bedchamber awkwardly. Seeing that there was not enough time, Eunuch Meng gritted his teeth and knocked on the door. Your Majesty, it's almost time for the morning court. The sounds inside stopped for a moment, but only for a moment. Eunuch Meng wiped his face, knowing that this was the answer from His Majesty. Therefore, on this day, the ministers who came to the morning court on time waited for more than 2 hours before they waited for the late emperor. The ministers looked at Shang Junlin with a frosty face and looked at each other. What happened? He looked like a husband who was chased out of his room by his wife. They did not know that Shang Junlin was chased out by Xinyu, who was angered by him early in the morning. Otherwise, today's morning court would have been cancelled. Because Shang Junlin was in a bad mood, the ministers also waited for a long time. They did not dare to provoke him, so they finished the morning court very efficiently. The morning court ended at about the same time as usual. When they walked out of the main hall, the ministers breathed a sigh of relief. What happened today? Not only is His Majesty late for more than 2 hours, but he is also in such a bad mood? A few of the ministers who had a good relationship with him gathered together and whispered, I'm not sure. Hasn't His Majesty been in a good mood these days? Last time, I made a mistake and thought I would be punished by His Majesty. I didn't expect His Majesty to let it go so easily. The situation in Subei has been very stable, and nothing major happened in the imperial court. What happened to His Majesty today? It can't be that he made His Majesty unhappy, right? A minister joked. Why is it that he made His Majesty unhappy and not the other way around? Another minister was puzzled. Jiang Huiqing followed behind the Prime Minister. When he heard this, he was a little worried. He gently pulled He Qingyu's sleeve. He Qingyu moved closer to him and asked in a low voice, What's wrong? Did His Majesty really have a conflict with His Majesty today? Afraid that others would hear, Jiang Huiqing lowered his voice. Will His Majesty really be angry with His Majesty? He Qingyu was a little amused. Why are you worried about this? Don't worry, His Majesty won't be angry with His Majesty. Why? Jiang Huiqing was puzzled. He Qingyu's fingers moved slightly. He wanted to rub Jiang Huiqing's hair, but he had to give up on the idea because there were too many people around. Look at His Majesty and His Majesty's interactions outside the palace. Do you think His Majesty will be angry with His Majesty? His Majesty will be angry with anyone but His Majesty. Jiang Huiqing recalled the few times he had interacted with the two outside the palace. He had to admit that He Qingyu was right. The ministers all guessed that something big was about to happen, but they didn't know that they were getting farther and farther away from the truth. In a certain courtyard. Sir, did we just take over the imperial court and destroy our stronghold? That's... You think I don't know? The man called Sir was hidden in the darkness. You think I want to see this result? This subordinate knows his mistake. The speaker knelt down and admitted his mistake. What's the situation in Subei? The supplies sent by the imperial court were directly sent to various small places. They didn't pass through the main city of Subei. Moreover, they were escorted by the army from beginning to end. We didn't know where to start. What about the people who asked you to fan the flames in Subei? The man's voice was filled with unconcealable anger. Sir, the subordinate swallowed his saliva. Apart from a few places, the rest failed. Even those few places were quickly suppressed. Useless. The man was so angry that he smashed the things on the desk. What did you do? Not only did they fail to accomplish anything, they even lost all of their manpower? Didn't you say that the imperial court was transferring supplies to the people? It was such a good opportunity to fan the people. Why couldn't you do such a small thing? Sir, we're innocent. This matter seems to be different from what we thought. Those people not only didn't complain about the imperial court, but also defended. Defended? The man was puzzled. Shouldn't the imperial court have angered the people by doing such a thing? Sir, we've been deceived. Those supplies weren't forcibly conscripted at all. They were voluntarily given by the people. The fear in the subordinate's heart grew stronger. Not only the ordinary people, but also the vassals, aristocratic families, merchants. They all donated voluntarily. When the subordinates figured out this matter, they realized how wrong they were. Their plan was doomed to fail from the very beginning. So that's how it is. The man smiled darkly. No wonder it didn't succeed even once. It turns out that they already knew that we would make a move. Sir, what should we do next? Don't worry about those people and strongholds. Do it cleanly. Don't let the imperial court find more important things. The matter in Subei is about to end. Shang Junlin, oh Shang Junlin. What's the use of sending so many things to Subei? In the end, aren't you just going to benefit me? Ha ha. The two people in the room didn't notice that the corner of a black robe flashed across the roof, almost blending into the night. The matter in Subei had reached a critical period. When Shang Junlin returned to Yuzhang Palace after discussing the follow-up matters with the Prime Minister and other important ministers in the imperial study, it was already dark. What is Guijun doing? The first thing Shang Junlin asked after entering the door was Xinyu. Is he uncomfortable today? Mushi shook her head. Guijun slept a little more during the day. He's now in the small study. Shang Junlin turned around and walked towards the small study. Xinyu was writing something. Under the candlelight, the young man's body was covered with a layer of halo. Shang Junlin raised his hand to signal the palace servants not to follow and walked in alone. Why isn't you resting on the soft couch? Shang Junlin habitually walked over and wanted to hug Xinyu. The young man quietly avoided him. Xinyu was sitting on a chair with a soft cushion. After sitting for a short while, Xinyu couldn't stand it anymore. He stood up with the note he had just written. Your Majesty, let's agree on 3 points. Shang Junlin took the note from Xinyu and was silent after reading it. It was a bit difficult for a person who had just experienced sex to abstain from sex. With you in my arms, it's hard for me not to be moved. Xinyu narrowed his eyes. Your Majesty can go back to your own palace or stay in the small study. Chapter 126. Shang Junlin didn't want to choose either of them. It wasn't easy for him to get her. He didn't want to be separated from her for even a moment, let alone at night. He was already used to hugging his soft and fragrant lover to sleep. Now that the two of them had a physical relationship, he only wanted to stick to her even more. I don't want to move away, and I don't want to sleep in the small study room. You and I are husband and husband, so we should sleep together. Shang Junlin wouldn't leave no matter what. Shin Yu wasn't surprised by this result. He raised his eyebrows. If you want to stay, it's possible. But can your majesty guarantee that you will do what I wrote? Shang Junlin stepped forward and picked him up under the young man's stunned gaze. It's late, I'll take you to rest. He avoided answering Shin Yu's question. Shin Yu subconsciously grabbed the man's clothes when his body was suddenly suspended in the air. He leaned on the man's shoulder and didn't intend to easily change the topic. Your Majesty hasn't answered my question yet. Shang Junlin lowered his head and met Shin Yu's teasing gaze. He carried Shin Yu and walked out, discussing while walking. Doesn't you think that 10 days is too long? I don't think so. If it wasn't for your Majesty, I think 1 month is quite good. Shin Yu shook his head. Eunuch Meng and the palace servants followed behind the two from a distance, so they couldn't hear their conversation clearly. I want to be closer to you. Doesn't you want to be closer to me? Shang Junlin didn't want to give up so easily. I did my homework in advance. You should be very comfortable. Shin Yu didn't deny this point. It was comfortable, but it was also really tiring. Especially the next day, his legs almost didn't belong to him, and it was difficult for him to get out of bed. Has your Majesty found someone to test it? Shin Yu narrowed his eyes slightly. The tone of this sentence seemed normal, but Shang Junlin could hear the coldness in it. He didn't stop walking, but there was a smile in his voice. Jin spends all day with you. Shouldn't you be very clear about whether or not I've tried it on someone? There are times when we are not together. Shin Yu snorted. That's for the morning court or discussions with the ministers in the imperial study. I also want to bring you there. If you is worried, why don't you follow me around all the time? Shang Junlin felt that this was a good suggestion, and wished that Shin Yu would agree immediately. No, I believe in your Majesty. Shin Yu didn't even want to think about it and refused. His words were more of a joke, and he didn't really suspect Shang Junlin. I won't find someone else to test it on. Other than you, I won't do this kind of thing with anyone else. Shang Junlin lowered his head and kissed Shin Yu. You can only do it with me. As for Yu's curiosity, Shang Junlin lowered his voice and whispered a few words in Shin Yu's ear. He successfully saw the youth's earlobes turn red. I know. Your Majesty, you don't need to say any more. Shin Yu repeatedly interrupted him, and his face became hotter and hotter. Shang Junlin stopped as Shin Yu wished. After a moment he continued. Everything needs to be practiced diligently. The more skilled you are, the easier it will be to do it. You should also practice more with me. In the future, you won't be so unbearable. Shin Yu couldn't believe that these words were said by Shang Junlin in a deadpan manner. Feeling Shin Yu's incredulous gaze, Shang Junlin's lips curled up. You said, isn't that right? Your Majesty is really. His understanding was refreshed once again. The small study room was not far from the bedchamber. It didn't take long for them to arrive. The palace maids gently opened the door. Shang Junlin carried Shin Yu and walked in. You don't need to follow me. Eunuch Meng stopped and stood guard outside the door with the palace maids. Shang Junlin put the youth on the bed and bent down. 10 days is too long. Do you have the heart to make me endure for so long? Shang Junlin was addicted to the taste. If it wasn't for cough, he wouldn't have refused to be separated from her for an entire night, and even angered her in the morning. Shin Yu was held under the man's body. When she raised her eyes, she could see the man's handsome face and his eyes that only had her in them. Shang Junlin's eyes were the standard red phoenix eyes. His eyes were long and narrow, and his dark pupils were bottomless. It was like an abyss that chose people to devour. Shin Yu tilted her head. Her heart was shaken for a moment. Stop. Shin Yu put her finger on Shang Junlin's lips. We can talk about the future. This time, it will take at least 10 days. If your majesty says one more word, it will be one more day. Shang Junlin didn't dare to continue. Okay, I'm going to sleep. Xinyu glanced at Shang Junlin's body. Your majesty, please take care of yourself. If there is a next time, your majesty can go to the small study room by yourself. Shang Junlin made a fuss in the morning. Naturally, he didn't dare to do anything now. After washing up, he came back and took the sleeping youth into his arms. The youth spontaneously found a more comfortable position and fell into a deeper sleep. It was just that Shang Junlin had suffered. His sweetheart was in his arms, and he was sleeping without any precautions. However, he couldn't do anything. On the other hand, Xinyu had a good sleep. After resting for a few days, Xinyu's body had almost recovered. During these few days, Shang Junlin kept his promise. Except for the occasional kiss and hug, he didn't cross the line at all. Xinyu was like a frog in warm water for a few days. Later, Shang Junlin occasionally crossed the line and did something. As long as it wasn't too excessive, Xinyu let him do whatever he wanted. After a sticky kiss, under Xinyu's angry gaze, Shang Junlin took his hand out of her lapel. A trace of regret flashed in his eyes. After tidying up his lapel, Shang Junlin took the initiative to talk about Sube to divert Xinyu's attention. Fang Jun has already met with Sun Zhao. The hidden dragon guards have also found enough evidence to get rid of these people once and for all. So, official Fang is about to complete his mission? Xinyu's attention was indeed diverted. He no longer cared about what Shang Junlin had done just now. Official Fang was sent to Sube. Disaster relief was only one of his missions. More importantly, he had to find out what exactly had happened in Sube and solve it. Only a few people knew about this. Even the officials in the imperial court didn't know much about it. It should be in the next few days. Do you have any clues about the person behind the rumors, Your Majesty? Yes, it's just a coincidence. That person happened to be in contact with Sube and was caught by the hidden dragon guards. Fang Jun will get rid of him as well. Sube main city. Under the cover of the hidden dragon guards, Sun Zhao disguised himself as an inconspicuous servant and sneaked out of the residence in the middle of the night. Everything was silent. Only the sound of his own footsteps could be heard. Sun Zhao walked through the alley with ease. He arrived at the entrance of an inconspicuous pub and walked in. Official Fang had been staying here for a while. Official Fang was injured and half lying on the bed. The situation was urgent. If not for the hidden dragon guards protecting him, the long sword would have pierced his heart instead of his shoulder. Are you feeling better, official? Sun Zhao walked in. He only knew that official Fang was injured when he came looking for him. It was obvious who the assassin was. I'm fine. How's the situation outside? Official Fang forced himself to sit up. His face was even paler. Everything is as you expected. Are you sure you don't want to rest for a few more days? Sun Zhao looked worried. I'm fine. This matter can't be delayed. It's not easy to have such a good opportunity. I can't delay it. The spy in the Sube army has been caught. Fortunately, we found out in time. They didn't have deep roots. It was fortunate that there were no major problems within the Sube army. If there were problems within the Sube army, this matter would be very troublesome. While Fang Jun was taking action, the hidden dragon guards had also infiltrated the Sube army. They tracked down the remaining spies through one of the Sube army's spies. Fang Jun then contacted the higher-ups of the Sube army and secretly captured the spies. The interrogation was also handed over to the Sube army. After the interrogation, the Sube army reported the information to Fang Jun. Then, through the hidden dragon guards, Fang Jun targeted a few of the officials. It was also at this time that Fang Jun was attacked. The assassin wanted to kill Fang Jun but was stopped by the hidden dragon guards who were secretly protecting Fang Jun. Seeing that he couldn't escape, he killed himself and didn't leave any clues. Fang Jun had been assassinated more than once. He knew that the officials in the Sube army had probably sensed something and didn't want him to leave the Sube army alive. So, they took advantage of this assassination to hide in the dark. The hidden dragon guards had been hiding in the dark. After entering the Sube army, they didn't appear in the outside world. The officials in the Subei army didn't realize that the emperor's spies and claws had already infiltrated the Subei army. They were still feeling smug, thinking that they had solved a big problem. The official sent by the imperial court, Fang Jun, hasn't appeared in a long time? An official asked at the banquet. Isn't it normal for someone to disappear after doing something they shouldn't have? Another person answered with a wine cup in his hand. Everyone sitting there was dressed in brocade clothes. The dishes on the table were not inferior to palace banquets. There were fine wine and delicacies, and dancers to liven things up. It was a joyous occasion. This was a banquet that only the upper echelons of the Subei army had the right to enjoy. Being able to participate was equivalent to being treated as one's own. After so many years of development, the Subei army had long become a place where the emperor was far away. If one wanted to climb up the ranks and obtain a higher official position, the only way was to join them. As for the officials sent by the imperial court, they either colluded with them or met with accidents. In the Subei army, were they not the ones who had the final say in everything? These people were used to having things go smoothly and thought that everything was under their control. But they didn't know that the guillotine was already hanging over their heads. Sun Zhao sat in the second row. All these years, he had kept a low profile and didn't have any big conflicts with these local officials. He held his wine cup and lowered his eyes to take a sip. He didn't need to look to know who was sitting there. It's all thanks to Lord Sun that we were able to solve such a big problem this time. Come, let this official toast to you. Sun Zhao raised his wine cup and raised it. It's my duty. In order to infiltrate their inner circle, Sun Zhao had done many things against his will over the years. In the last assassination attempt on Fang Jun, he had also participated in it. But before the incident, he had told Fang Jun through the hidden dragon guard. Fang Jun had asked the other party to tell him 4 words. Beat them at their own game. That was why Fang Jun was seriously injured. And under his deliberate actions, these people all thought that the assassination attempt was a success. Thus, there was this celebratory banquet, and the perfect opportunity to catch all of them in one fell swoop. Toasts were exchanged, songs and dances were sung, and the strong wine was spicy. Just by looking at this place, who would have thought that the Subei army was experiencing a natural disaster? Actually, the most unexpected thing was that Lord Sun would help us. If we didn't have a clear understanding of the movements in the capital, we wouldn't have known that Fang Jun had such a motive, said the person sitting at the head of the table. Are you all talking about this official? A slightly amused voice sounded, and the hall immediately fell silent. Chapter 127. The voices stopped. The officials in the hall looked in the direction of the voice, their faces filled with disbelief. A man in a dark red official's robe leisurely strolled in. Every step he took was like walking on the tip of their hearts. Wasn't it said that Fang Jun was dead? Then what had appeared in front of them today? A person or a ghost? Just what had happened? Questions popped up in their minds, but no one answered them. Some people even cautiously looked down. When they saw Fang Jun's shadow, they breathed a sigh of relief. It was better to be a person than a ghost. You all don't seem to welcome this official? Fang Jun restrained the smile on his face. He didn't show any anger. How could that be? The first official to react forced a smile. We just didn't expect Lord Fang to suddenly come. That's right. Fang Jun nodded in agreement, but his next words made everyone's heart sink. How could a dead person suddenly appear at your celebration banquet? Lord Fang, what are you saying? How could we? Fang Jun waved his hand, indicating that there was no need to say more. He walked in like he was strolling through his own garden. You all are living very comfortably here. If this official hadn't come all the way here, and truly felt that Subei was suffering from a drought, I would have suspected that someone deliberately leaked the news. Could it be that the imperial court didn't receive news of the drought in Subei, because none of the officials felt that there was a natural disaster in Subei? With each sentence that Lord Fang spoke, the faces of the people present grew uglier. They were all from Subei, so how could they not be aware of the situation there? They were just hoping for a fluke, and wanted to stall for time, so that the news wouldn't reach the imperial court. They had already delayed for so long, so they didn't care if they delayed for a few more days. In any case, they weren't the ones who were starving. Fang Jun didn't need to ask to know what they were thinking. He also didn't intend to argue with them. They had done something they shouldn't have done, and how much damage they had caused. Every debt would be settled by the imperial court. Food can be eaten carelessly, but words can't be spoken carelessly. Does Lord Feng know what you're saying? The person sitting at the head of the table stood up, displeased. There was a faint sense of unease in his heart, but he couldn't show it. Moreover, he had spies all over Su Bei. If something really was going to happen, he shouldn't have not heard the slightest bit of it. At this moment, he subconsciously ignored Fang Jun's sudden appearance. He didn't get the news in advance. Lord Ho, are you angry because your thoughts have been exposed? I didn't understand it before, but I do now. If this is what we see every day, it's no wonder we can't see that the outside world is already filled with starving people. Don't you think so, Lord Ho? Lord Feng stood below and looked straight at Lord Ho. There was a fire in his eyes. It was anger. Although Fang Jun did not show it on his face, he was really angry at the moment, especially after seeing this scene. Even His Majesty, who was most qualified to enjoy these luxurious pleasures, had not done so. How dare these people? As if burned by the fiery light in Fang Jun's eyes, Lord Ho averted his gaze, not daring to meet it. Lord Feng must be joking. This official lives in Su Bei, so how could I turn a blind eye to the disaster in Su Bei? Today's banquet was only held because I saw that the situation in Su Bei had improved. I wanted to let my tense subordinates relax a little. Is that so? Lord Feng suddenly smiled. Is it really not to get rid of this official, this rock in the way? Lord Ho didn't expect Fang Jun to be so direct. His expression changed again and again. He looked towards the corner of the hall, and made a gesture with his hand hanging by his side. No matter how Fang Jun escaped, since he dared to come here alone, he shouldn't blame him for using his own blood to liven things up. But Lord Ho waited for a long time. The hall was still quiet. The singing and dancing had stopped long ago. And the people he had arranged didn't move either. What was going on? Lord Ho panicked. He walked over to Fang Jun and asked sternly, "What did you do?" At this moment, his nerves that had been numbed by alcohol finally recovered some of their sobriety. He thought of more things that didn't seem right. For example, he had arranged for people to wait outside. Why didn't Fang Jun notify him when he came in? For example, Fang Jun was clearly a dead person. How could he appear here so openly? Before this, he hadn't heard any news at all. Shouldn't this official be asking you this? Fang Jun's face was cold. Lord Ho, what did you do? Did His Majesty give Su Bei to you to let you watch the people starve to death? So you didn't die. Lord Ho laughed heartily. But what can you do by coming here alone? Being scolded won't hurt me at all. On the other hand, Lord Feng, you've walked right into my trap. I'd like to see how you're going to escape this time. Come, this person is pretending to be an official of the imperial court. Arrest him. Lord Ho tried to sound fierce. There's no need to struggle, Lord Ho. Sun Zhao straightened his clothes and stood up. Lord Ho, there's no need to deceive yourself. No matter how you shout, the people you arranged to protect you won't appear. You also lied to this official. Lord Ho's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. This official thinks that I've treated you well. Why did you do this? That's right, my lord has treated me well. But I'm first and foremost a citizen of the Great Huan Kingdom, and second, I'm your subordinate. Oh, that's not right, I'm an official of the Great Huan Kingdom. My lord should wake up. Su Bei belongs to the Great Huan Kingdom, and not your personal property. This official was saying that the news of Su Bei's drought wasn't allowed to spread outside. So it was you. You were the one who reported the news to the imperial court? Sun Zhao didn't deny it. The other officials had long been confused by this scene. They looked at the three of them in confusion. This official should have known that you were left behind by that person. How could you be on the same side as Su Bei? Lord Ho muttered. Lord Ho, you're wrong. This official has always been on the same side as Su Bei. It's just that Lord Ho's heart is biased. Sun Zhao retorted mercilessly. Orderly footsteps sounded. There was a commotion outside. Sun Zhao and Fang Jun looked at each other. The Subei army had arrived. Fang Jun did not travel with the Northern Sioux army. He had arrived earlier and brought a few hidden dragon guards with him. The hidden dragon guards had quietly taken care of the people outside while he entered the main hall alone. If there were any changes, he would inform the hidden dragon guards hiding outside, and ask the Northern Sioux army to change their plans. If the plan went according to plan, the Northern Sioux army would arrive within an hour. As soon as he entered the main hall, he observed the situation inside. Then, according to the plan, he informed the hidden dragon guards outside. When the Subei army broke into the main hall, Lord Ho's expression changed completely. When did you contact the Subei army? The existence of the Subei army had always been a thorn in Lord Ho's heart. If such a powerful force could be used by him, no one would be unhappy. However, if this force couldn't be used by him, what would happen? It would be like a fishbone stuck in his throat. The existence of the Subei army constantly reminded him that he could never be the true master of the Subei army. How could he, who had long regarded the Subei army as his own, tolerate this? Over the years, he had spent a lot of effort to plant his own men in the Subei army. Until now, it was somewhat effective. Why didn't he inform the imperial court about the drought in the Subei army? He just wanted to buy time and use this opportunity to gain a deeper understanding of the Subei army. Once the Subei army was under his command, he would naturally ask the imperial court for help. After all, it was a large sum of money and resources. How could he let go of something that was delivered to him for free? Lord Ho doesn't need to worry about this. Lord Fang nodded to the leader of the Subei army. Take them all away. These people were locked up in the government office that they had previously occupied. However, this time, they were living in a dark and damp prison. Fang Jun finished dealing with everything. Just as he was about to say something, his vision suddenly turned black and he fell forward. Lord Fang. Sun Zhao instinctively wanted to catch him, but the two of them were not close enough. By the time he reacted, it was already too late. Fortunately, the general of the Subei army, who had been discussing the matter with him, reacted quickly and caught him, preventing him from falling to the ground. Quick, call Imperial Physician Wu over. Sun Zhao ordered a servant to bring him over. He smiled wryly and cupped his hands to the general of the Subei army. Thank you, General Wei. I will have to trouble you with the following matters. Lord Fang, this is. Lord Fang was originally injured. This time, he forced himself to carry out the operation. At the time, in order to avoid being discovered by Lord Ho's men, he didn't dare to call for a doctor. He only treated him carelessly. Fortunately, Imperial Physician Wu happened to be in the main city these 2 days. It didn't take long for him to arrive at the government office. After treating Lord Fang's wound and bandaging it, Imperial Physician Wu washed his hands. Fortunately, Lord Fang's foundation is good. I will give him a prescription. He will recover in a few days. Sun Zhao, who was standing guard at the side, breathed a sigh of relief. He was also involved in the assassination plan. If something really happened to Lord Fang, he would feel uneasy. This time, the memorial was sent to Shang Junlin as quickly as possible. Along with it, the Subei army and Sun Zhao wrote a separate report. It was also at this time that Shen Yu and Shang Junlin found out that Fang Jun was injured. The memorial was sent to Shang Junlin in the form of a secret letter. The imperial court would receive the official news a little later. Without Lord Ho and the other officials interfering, the memorial to the Subei army could be sent to the imperial court. Fortunately, Your Majesty sent the hidden dragon guards to secretly protect Lord Fang. Including this time, Lord Fang has been assassinated no less than 5 times. Those people are really unwilling to give up. Shen Yu sighed. Fang Jun is a threat to them. Naturally, they won't let him go easily. The hidden dragon guards also found out many secrets. These years, the officials who died for no reason in the Subei army were more or less related to them. Shang Junlin's voice was slightly cold. Your Majesty, how do you plan to deal with these people? Are you going to bring them back or deal with them directly in the Subei army? This time many officials were arrested and involved a lot of things. If they were to be brought back to the capital, it would be too easy for there to be unforeseen events. I don't plan to bring them back. Let them stay in the Subei army to comfort the souls of those who died because of them. That's good too. Their crimes should be announced to the entire Dahuan. What about the person who spread the rumors? Does your majesty know who it is? We'll know soon. The bait had been thrown. They were just waiting for the big fish to bite. When does your majesty plan to deal with those people in the Subei army? Xinyu leaned on Shang Junlin and moved. What do you think? Shang Junlin raised his hand and touched Xinyu's face. Your majesty, let's set the time 10 days later. At least the first person to be executed will be on that day. In fact, this time was a little rushed. However, Shang Junlin didn't ask much and only replied, Okay. Your majesty, aren't you going to ask me why I want to set the date? Xinyu turned around and looked at Shang Junlin with burning eyes. Chapter 128. Shang Junlin stared deeply at Xinyu for a while, his eyes seeming as if he wanted to see into Xinyu's heart. It was as if nothing could be hidden, as if the secrets that had been hidden for so long were about to be exposed to the light of day. Xinyu couldn't help but feel a little nervous, his fingers slightly curling at his sides. In the end, Shang Junlin only raised his hand to stroke the hair on his temples. Wait until Yu is willing to speak, then tell us. Shang Junlin knew better than anyone that Xinyu hid countless secrets. Not delving into it didn't mean that he didn't care. He just didn't want to force Xinyu to do anything. He was willing to wait for the day when Xinyu would open his heart and tell him everything. Xinyu gently leaned against Shang Junlin and whispered, Actually, I can't say for sure. It might rain in 10 days. It's just a matter of time. It can happen anytime. Subei really should give the people an explanation as soon as possible. The mass imprisonment of the high-ranking officials caused quite a stir in Subei. The people were confused and gathered together to discuss the matter. What's going on? Why were Lord Ho and the others suddenly arrested? Wasn't Lord Fong sent by the imperial court to provide disaster relief? Why did he arrest the other officials? It had to be said that Lord Ho and the others had done a good job on the surface. At the very least, the people of Subei were willing to speak up for them. But in other places, the people unconditionally trusted Lord Fong. Have you heard? The high-ranking officials of the main city have all been arrested by Lord Fong. I heard. Sure enough, the heavenly Tao reincarnates. They used the disaster relief funds to expand their private coffers. Sooner or later, they will pay the price. No wonder we haven't seen Lord Fong in this period of time. It turns out that he went to the main city to deal with the officials who pocketed money. I also heard a small piece of news. I don't know if it's true or not, but it said that at the beginning, there were officials who reported our situation to the imperial court. But for some reason, this report wasn't sent to the capital. We waited for a long time for the imperial court's people to arrive. It turns out that it's because someone is interfering and doesn't want the imperial court to help us. I don't understand. Doing this won't benefit Subei at all. Look at how many people have died in this period of time. If the people of the imperial court hadn't arrived in time, I'm afraid there would have been even more casualties. Are you stupid? Think about it. If the imperial court doesn't send anyone over, wouldn't the ones who save us be the high-ranking officials in the main city? At that time, those people only need to say that the imperial court deliberately ignored us to incite our dissatisfaction with the imperial court. From there, we'll be grateful to the culprit who caused all this. After listening to the analysis, the others came to a sudden realization and cursed. This dog official is really inhumane. Well done. You want us to be grateful to them? Dream on. Fortunately, the lords sent by the imperial court saw through their scheme. In just a few days, the news had spread to every part of Subei. The people in the main city also understood the ins and outs of the matter from the explanations of the people sent by Lord Fong. They had always known that the drought in Subei was very serious, but the main city had relief every day, so it wasn't as if they couldn't get by. Everything in the city was stable, so their perception wasn't so clear. It was only now that the blindfolds over their eyes had been removed that they could see just how serious the situation in Subei was. It turned out that the stability they had thought of was a man-made illusion. They would secretly send the sick out of the main city and casually throw them somewhere, telling the people in the city that they were being brought to a centralized place for treatment. At the same time, they would seal the city gates, forbidding the people inside from leaving and the people outside from entering. As the news didn't spread, the people in the city never noticed that something was wrong. At the end of his speech, Sun Chao's tone was filled with uncontrollable anger. I don't know about any of this. They must have sent their trusted aides to do this. Those people who were sent out of the main city probably didn't have much luck. Not only was there no one to take care of them when they were sick, they were also left in the wilderness without medicine or food. One could easily imagine their fate. No matter what, send people to look for them. Save as many as you can, Lord Feng ordered, even though he knew that the chances of those people surviving were very small. Under Lord Feng's command, Subei's main city operated in an orderly manner. Lord Feng learned about Shen Yu's actions in the capital from the people who came from the capital. He knew that he couldn't let anyone take advantage of the loopholes and stir up conflict between the people of Subei. Thus, he sent people to blend in with the people and guide them to see the truth of the matter. Lord, what did the imperial court say? Should we detain those people back to the capital? Sun Zhao asked. There were quite a lot of people arrested this time. If they were to detain all of them back to the capital, they would have to spend a lot of effort and manpower considering the possible situations that might arise along the way. His Majesty said that we can deal with them directly in Subei. He also set a date for us to execute these people before that day. Hearing the date mentioned by Lord Feng, Sun Zhao was surprised. Why is it so rushed? Don't worry about what His Majesty thinks. Go make the arrangements. Lord Feng patted him on the shoulder. Fortunately, they had already collected all the evidence. After receiving the order, the evidence was released one by one. It was also at this time that the people of Subei's main city realized for the first time that the officials they trusted had committed countless crimes. So my sick father wasn't actually sent for treatment, but directly thrown out of the main city? The moment he heard the news, the young man covered his face and knelt on the ground. He would never be able to forgive himself for pushing his father to his death. He wasn't the only one who was devastated. I was wondering why we weren't allowed to visit him. It turns out that it's because he's long gone. How can we visit him without him? And I was so stupid to believe it. These dog officials, I'm going to kill them. The people who were stimulated by the sudden bad news were filled with regret and hatred. After all, no one could accept the fact that they had personally pushed their loved ones to their deaths. Feng Jun and Sun Zhao watched the scene from afar. On the day of the execution, let them come and watch the execution. Call more people to stand guard. The hatred in their hearts had to be vented. The evidence of their crimes was also handed over to the imperial palace. During the morning court session, the Prime Minister announced the news from Subei one by one. Upon hearing this, the hall was instantly thrown into chaos. That batch of supplies was actually stolen by the officials of Subei. They hid it and refused to report it only because they wanted to control the Subei army. The people can't even fill their stomachs, yet they're still in the mood to drink and make merry, completely ignoring the disaster. These people are simply unworthy of being officials. Lying about taxes, oppressing the people, colluding with bandits, robbing passers-by of their wealth, intercepting and killing fleeing citizens. Each and every one of these things that were placed on an official made people feel that it was ridiculous. Severe punishment. This matter must be severely punished. The minister's opinions reached a high level of unity. The actions of the officials of Subei were undoubtedly trampling on the authority of the imperial court. From the emperor to the ministers, no one could tolerate this. At the same time, the prime minister announced the decision to execute these people on the spot. The ministers once more began to quarrel over whether or not they should be escorted back and executed. Shang Junlin propped up his forehead with one hand, bored to death as he watched the red-faced officials argue. Suddenly, his gaze paused for a moment on an official who was pretending to be calm, but before he could be noticed, he lightly looked away. The bait had worked. In the end, neither side could convince the other, so they all turned to Shang Junlin and said, "Your Majesty, please make a decision." "Let's do as Lord Feng says." Although those who felt that the officials should be escorted back to the capital were dissatisfied, they could only accept. After the court session, the officials dispersed, leaving the Prime Minister behind. I really didn't think that those people would be so bold as to even touch something sent by the Imperial Court. They probably think that the Imperial Court is too far away to do anything about Su Bei. They didn't even think about how His Majesty would tolerate others coveting his things. After staying in Su Bei for so long, they really think that they're the master of Su Bei. With such a big incident happening in the previous dynasty, the harem had also heard the news. Xinyu saw Mushi's angry expression and found it a bit funny. Still angry? Aren't these people about to receive the punishment they deserve? Mushi. This servant just can't stand it. Xinyu. I didn't expect Mushi to be someone who abhors evil. Mushi. Gongzi, don't make fun of this servant. This servant really can't understand why they would do such a thing. Xinyu. Power blinds the eyes. Since they couldn't control themselves, they should have known that there would be a day when they would pay for their sins. Xinyu had dealt with many such people in his previous life. For power and money, some people could give up everything. A mere conscience was worthless in the eyes of those people. Shang Junlin asked the Prime Minister to stay behind to discuss the follow-up of the incident in Su Bei, as well as how to deal with the person who spread the rumors. This person hid very deeply in the Imperial Court. If it wasn't for Shang Junlin's deliberate delay in the incident in Su Bei, this person might not have exposed himself. Why did Your Majesty let Feng Jun execute those people on the spot? The Prime Minister was somewhat puzzled. According to the usual practice, those people should be escorted to the capital to receive the final trial. This way, it would be more beneficial for the Imperial Court and the Imperial family to establish their power. Shang Junlin stood with his hands behind his back. When he heard the question, he turned around and said lightly, I naturally have my reasons for doing so. After dealing with official business, Shang Junlin returned to Yuzhang Palace. Xinyu was asking Mushi about the flower sent by Prince In. He thought about it and felt that this flower was a bit strange. This flower is also magical. Ever since it bloomed that day, there have been no signs of withering. After so many days, it's still blooming very well. Mushi had never seen a flower that could bloom for so long. What flower? Shang Junlin walked over. It's the flower sent by Prince In previously. Mushi said that the flower hasn't withered yet. I want to see it. This flower had been in the palace for so long and nothing had happened. There were also specialists who came to take a look at it and said that this flower was not poisonous. Shang Junlin also asked the imperial physicians to treat the palace servants who took care of the flower, and confirmed that there were no problems with their bodies. If you want to see it, go ahead. Speaking of which, the date when this flower blooms is interesting. It happened to be a date that Shang Junlin had a deep memory of. If Your Majesty knows the specific time when it blooms, you might be even more surprised. Xinyu mentioned the time. Shang Junlin silently calculated. What a coincidence. While they were talking, the two of them had already arrived at the place where the flower was placed. From afar, the flower bloomed beautifully among the other flowers and plants. When they got closer, Xinyu did not know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the petals were leaning towards him. Shang Junlin also saw it. He looked at the flower, and then looked at Xinyu. There was a trace of uncertainty in his voice. This flower seems to like you very much. Chapter 129. Xinyu had been thinking about this flower for the past few days. When he saw it today, he didn't feel anything special. It was just a beautiful flower. Hearing Shang Junlin's words, Xinyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Your Majesty, what are you talking about? It's just a flower. Halfway through his words, Xinyu suddenly stopped because he found that the flower was swaying slightly with his movements. Xinyu looked at Shang Junlin. Both of their eyes were full of disbelief. This flower. Xinyu turned his head to look at the flower. The flower was swaying without any wind. The color of the petals was much lighter than when he first saw it. It was like a transparent jade. The petals were slightly curled and stretched outwards layer by layer. It was beautiful. Shang Junlin called the palace servant who was in charge of taking care of the flower. When you were taking care of the flower, did you find anything wrong with it? No, the palace servant thought for a while. No, there is one thing. This flower occasionally moves. Isn't it normal for it to be blown by the wind? Shang Junlin asked calmly. I dare not deceive you. There were several times when the flower moved, but there was no wind. The palace servant plopped down on his knees. I don't mean to blame you. Get up. Shen Yu saw that the palace servant was frightened by Shang Junlin, so he said helplessly. It seemed that the flower didn't move only because of him. Shen Yu was inexplicably relieved. Your Majesty, why do you think Prince An sent such a flower from thousands of miles away? Shen Yu couldn't figure it out. Under his hint, the other vassals sent gold, silver, and jewelry in a very simple way. Only Prince An sent such a flower from afar. I've sent people to secretly investigate King An's fief, but they didn't find a second flower like this. It said that King An obtained this flower by chance and sent it over, because he thought it was pretty. He even sent it along with a big gift. Shang Junlin didn't plan to keep the flower at first. He didn't feel at ease leaving something of unknown origin with Shen Yu. However, he felt that he would regret throwing the flower away. Prince An wouldn't dare to brazenly tamper with the things he sent over, so he kept the flower. Shen Yu continued to observe the flower. The branches and leaves were green, and it was about half the height of a person. There was only one flower, and it was surrounded by the branches and leaves like stars surrounding the moon. It seemed to be emitting a lustrous light. This flower can't really glow at night, right? Shen Yu couldn't help but think. Everything was covered by the curtain of night. It was as if this flower was the only source of light left between heaven and earth. It attracted creatures like moths to a flame. The petals unfolded to the extreme, revealing the white bead that was wrapped inside. What was that? Shen Yu couldn't help but get closer. He wanted to take a closer look, but he was suddenly pulled back to reality by a voice that rang in his ears. You. Shen Yu turned around. There was still confusion in his eyes. What? His hand was grabbed by the man. Shang Junlin stared at him. You wanted to pick that flower just now. After he finished speaking, he didn't wait for Shen Yu to respond. He held him tightly in his arms and took a step back. The way he looked at the flower became unfriendly. Wrapped in the man's biting cold breath, Shen Yu's muddled thoughts finally returned to normal. When he looked at the flower again, his eyes were filled with emotions. It was too strange. It seemed like he was the only one affected. Shen Yu suppressed the various thoughts in his mind. He patted Shang Junlin to comfort him. I'm fine. I misjudged it just now. Shang Junlin was still worried. He carefully checked Shen Yu's body. He was no longer curious about the flower. He carried him out. Eunuch Meng saw Shang Junlin carrying Shen Yu out. He hurriedly greeted him. Your Majesty. Summon Imperial Physician Gu. Shang Junlin didn't stop walking. He carried Shen Yu to the bedchamber. Eunuch Meng didn't dare to delay. He trotted to summon Imperial Physician Gu. Shen Yu carefully felt his body. He leaned against Shang Junlin's chest. I'm really fine. The flower didn't cause him any discomfort. Imperial Physician Gu was drying the medicine. He was called to Yuzhang Palace by Eunuch Meng. He thought something serious had happened. After entering, he saw that Shen Yu's face was normal. On the contrary, Shang Junlin's face didn't look good. After Imperial Physician Gu finished checking Shen Yu's pulse, he put down his hand. Something flashed in his mind, but it disappeared before he could catch it. Imperial Physician Gu asked Shen Yu a few more questions. Shen Yu answered them one by one. Imperial Physician Gu pondered. I want to take a look at the flower first. Shang Junlin ordered the palace servants to bring Imperial Physician Gu over. Not long after, Imperial Physician Gu came back. Your Majesty, don't worry. There's nothing wrong with your body. I went to take a look at the flower. It won't cause any harm to the human body. Although Imperial Physician Gu guaranteed that there was no problem, Shang Junlin was still scared. For the next few days, he had to keep an eye on Shen Yu at all times. He also didn't allow Shen Yu to see the flower again. However, Shen Yu really wanted to see it again. He later asked around. Other than him, no one else who came into contact with the flower showed any abnormal behavior. He wanted to know if what happened that day was inevitable, or just a coincidence. Of course, after that day, Shang Junlin was very angry. He ordered people to clean up the place where the flower was placed. In fact, he also knew that it wasn't necessarily a problem with the flower. It was possible that someone did something to the place where the flower was placed. Wasn't Xinyu plotted against on the day he entered the palace? Needless to say, they really did find something. It's a hallucinogenic drug. The dosage is very small. Imperial physician Gu took the small piece of wood and put it under his nose to smell it. Such a small dosage won't have any effect on the human body. Just by smelling it, it will be quickly metabolized. No wonder we didn't find anything wrong with your body that day. Shang Junlin exuded a cold aura. The small piece of wood was found on the flower rack. It was obvious that someone deliberately put it there. Shang Junlin strictly guarded it, but he didn't expect that someone would still tamper with it. He ordered people to bring the flower rack over. Shang Junlin said coldly, "Imperial Physician Gu, see if there's anything else here." Imperial Physician Gu walked around the flower rack and shook his head, replying, "To your Majesty, there's nothing else." Xinyu walked over with a veil. The veil was soaked with medicine, which was specially made by Imperial Physician Gu. Xinyu's body was weaker than ordinary people. Many medicines that were not important to ordinary people could affect him. Xinyu was also interested in the things that caused hallucinations. He wanted to take a look, so he thought of this method. The veil was not transparent, only revealing a pair of clear eyes. Xinyu's eyes were very beautiful. The corners of his eyes were slightly raised. When he wasn't smiling, he gave people a feeling that he was smiling. Especially when half of his face was covered, the charm of his eyes was even more prominent. How was this piece of wood found? Xinyu lowered his head and looked at the piece of wood that was placed on the small table. It was about 2 fingers wide, and the color of the flower rack was the same as the color of the flower rack. It was inlaid on the inside so it couldn't be found. This was an accident. When he saw Xinyu, Shang Junlin's cold aura immediately disappeared. There was a little palace maid who was careless. When she was moving flowers, she accidentally knocked down the rack. This piece of wood fell out and was found by the palace maid in charge. The palace maid knew that the emperor was investigating, so she didn't dare to hide anything. When she found the piece of wood, she immediately reported it. What happened next was what Xinyu saw. The flowers and plants were all moved to other places. Xinyu walked around, but he didn't see the flower that Prince An sent. He walked to Shang Junlin and poked his arm. "Your Majesty, where's the flower?" "I put it somewhere else." "Don't worry, I won't throw it away." Knowing that Xinyu's abnormality that day had nothing to do with the flower, Shang Junlin's hostility towards the flower was not so big. "Who put this piece of wood in here? It's a clever idea. We're still investigating." Shang Junlin took advantage of the situation and put his arm around Xinyu's waist and pulled him away. "You don't get too close." The position of the piece of wood was next to the flower that Prince An sent. No wonder Xinyu was affected when he was near the flower. What does this person want to do? Let the emperor mistakenly think that Prince An harmed me? When we catch the person, we'll know what they want to do. Shang Junlin's tone was gentle, but his eyes were cold. Xinyu and Shang Junlin stayed here for a while. Eunuch Meng came in and said that a minister was looking for Shang Junlin. Xinyu left with him. The person who entered the palace was the prime minister, and it was for the matter of Su Bei. The upper-level officials of Su Bei were arrested, leaving a large number of vacancies. These positions were temporarily filled by people sent by the imperial court, but this was not a long-term plan. They had to arrange for suitable officials as soon as possible. Not all of the local officials were in cahoots. This was especially true for the smaller cities around. There were quite a few responsible officials. Lord Feng selected some of them and transferred them to the main city to take up positions. There were also some minor officials who were already serving in the main city. Based on their strength, Feng Jun kept some of them and sent the rest to the smaller cities to temper themselves. The officials from the imperial court who had come with him to provide disaster relief were also called to the main city by him to temporarily take over some of their duties. Lord Ho and the others had operated in Subei for many years and had a deep foundation. Although they had now been captured, the network of connections they had left behind could not be cut off overnight. In order to clean up the mess, Fong Darren was very busy. Time passed quickly, and soon it was the day of the execution. The sky in Subei was still clear, and there was no sign of rain. Early in the morning, the common people who learned that Lord Ho and the others were about to be executed rushed to the execution site. Those who had passed away would not return, but they could at least see the culprits receive their due punishment. The criminals were escorted to the execution site. In the face of the bloody scene that was about to happen, not a single one of the common people showed any fear. There was excitement in their eyes, a desire to get rid of them as soon as possible, pleasure, and hatred, but there was no fear. Fong Darren sat on the main seat while Sun Zhao sat below. Sensing the angry glares from the execution site, he smiled and looked back. The time has come. The sharp blade was raised high and brought down. It was as if all the sins had been cut off. The smell of blood filled the air as a sacrifice to the souls of those who had died unjustly. Rumble. When the last person was executed, a large dark cloud drifted over and covered the scorching sun. The people watching the execution looked up in a daze, cold drops of water falling on their faces. It was raining. Right after these evil officials were executed, it was raining. The common people knelt in the direction of the imperial city and shouted, "Long live His Majesty!" Even Fong Jun, who was used to seeing big scenes, was at a loss for a moment when he personally experienced this moment. No one would have thought that the rain that Subei had been looking forward to for so long would fall at this moment, and at such a time. When the news reached the imperial court, everyone was shocked. "Ayu." As soon as Shang Junlin walked in, he pulled the young man into his arms. "Sometimes, I wonder if Ayu is an immortal sent by the heavens and will return to the heavens after completing the mission? Or Ayu is a fairy among flowers. That flower will only show affection to Ayu, and Ayu can control the rain." As Shang Junlin spoke, he impatiently planted kisses on Xinyu's face, as if he wanted to use this method to confirm Xinyu's existence. "Xinyu." Xinyu worriedly touched Shang Junlin's forehead. "What happened to His Majesty? Why did he start talking nonsense?" That you're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.